Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for coming to this Golden Memories, the first session. We welcome you. We're very, very grateful that you've made it. We want to start this session by a recollection of the very beginning of where you were when you started seeking. Were you seeking, or did you happen to find Shri Mataji? The very first days. So, would Ruth like to start, please?
Yes. Yes, I was seeking in quite an intense way, really. I was reading about all different kinds of religions, and I'd say I was a pretty desperate seeker. I was a very bad insomniac. I hadn't slept very much for 2 years. I was so tense, I think, and basically I moved into a house in Bristol where my husband-to-be was living in the flat above. I didn't know him then. And he'd been telling all his friends about Sahaja Yoga and expecting them to be as enthusiastic as he was. And of course hadn't had much response. And so when he came to telling me about it, he was very laid back and didn't tell me very much. He didn't show me Shri Mataji's photograph, but he described it, that it was something within us that through which we could feel our own inner state, and also that it was collective and we could feel the state of other people. And not only that, but that we could actually put that right, so that I remember thinking, well, what else is there? I mean, if that's true, then that's it. And he told me about the meetings in London at Caxton Hall, where Shri Mataji was there, and I didn't tell him because I wanted to go to the meeting on my own. I didn't want to have that feeling that, he was watching me and seeing what my response would be. So I went without telling him, and had a very intense, deep experience at that first meeting with Shri Mataji, and just went back and said I'd met Shri Mataji and I'm going to do it. And he nearly went through the ceiling because he was so surprised, because everybody else he'd been telling had been, not had that kind of reaction. So, but I was seeking very much. Yes.
What was it like when you met Mother? You said you had a very intense experience.
Well, I remember sitting waiting for Shri Mataji to come into the hall, and it was only then really that I started to think, what is it? Who is this person that I'm waiting to see? And this intense feeling of expectation. And suddenly everybody rose to their feet, and Mother walked in, and I remember she was much smaller than I expected, because I suppose I imagined, someone much bigger. And I was right in the front row, and Shri Mataji talked for about an hour, I suppose, quite a long talk. And I just remember feeling that everything that she said made such sense, and it was such common sense, and so just resonated so much in me. And then at the end of her talk, she said, right, now it's not about talking, it's about the experience. And so shut your eyes and put your hands out towards me. And as soon as I did that, I felt this incredible thump up my spine. And I didn't really know very much about Kundalini or anything, so I didn't know what to expect. And I just thought I knew something amazing had happened, because obviously it was a very definite experience. And then afterwards, Shri Mataji was in an incredibly motherly mood that night, which was very good for me, because I had quite a difficult relationship with my own mother, and she was an incredibly, just pouring love out mood, and just her arms open and moving amongst everybody, and it was very biblical in a way. I remember feeling when she didn't talk to me, but I remember having this feeling that I just wanted to touch any part of her, like even her sari. And I mean, afterwards I thought, gosh, I've never had that feeling about anybody before. And I recognised that as something very special, that I had that instinct. And just that feeling that I'd never seen love like that before. And I knew that I was seeing some love which was just beyond, just special. Yeah.
Bernard, would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, well, my seeking was quite developed before I came. I won't go all the way back because it's a very long story, but basically I'd had a musical experience. I'd bought a saxophone, and 2 weeks after I'd bought it, I was trying to play along with a jazz record, and I was trying to get the mode of the music that was on the record and try and feel my way into it, and suddenly something kicked in, and suddenly I was playing, and it was complete freedom, and I was flying all over the place. I was playing precisely all the notes that I ever dreamt of playing, and it was just a completely liberating experience. And the next evening I thought, right, I've cracked it, I know how to play now. And I picked up my saxophone, and it just wasn't there. What I'd had that evening had completely gone. And so I thought, now what happened there? I mean, it's something amazing happened there, and how can I get it back? And I had this experience 2 or 3 times, sometimes playing with other people, which was an incredible experience as well, because you seem to enter an area where, without saying anything to the other person, you were on each other's wavelength, and it was very tight. And I could see this happening as well in other performances, great performances of music. And subsequently I've learned all art sort of comes from that space, was highly spontaneous, and it came from somewhere within. And I read books where musicians were saying, I become my instrument and my instrument becomes me and I'm no longer human. One jazz musician was saying, this music is coming directly to you from the Creator. And so I knew there was something that I wanted to find, and I was looking into the coolness of the whole jazz thing, the whole cool side of jazz, being relaxed, in command of the situation. And so that led me to, well, how do you become relaxed in that way? And so I started looking at meditation, and I was reading books on meditation. At that time I was reading different scriptures as well. For some reason I started reading all different scriptures and realizing that they were all saying the same thing. All the virtues in all these great people were talking about, the Buddhists, Muhammad, Lao Tzu, they're all saying the same thing. And I couldn't understand why no one else could see that. And at the same time I moved out of London and moved into the countryside, and I was becoming more and more of a recluse, because I was feeling that no one really was on that wavelength, and wondering really what it was all about, when some friends of mine came down for the weekend, and they had in tow with them a Sahaja Yogi, and we went down the pub, and the first noticeable thing was that this guy wasn't drinking. And I said, oh, why aren't you drinking? And he said, it's my meditation, man. If you meditate properly, you don't need to drink. I thought, oh, this sounds interesting, because I'd already come to the conclusion that maybe these these habits weren't good for one. And then I said, well, why not? He said, well, it's your kundalini. It affects the kundalini. I said, well, what's the kundalini? And he said, I can't tell you. I said, well, is it the Tao? Because the first stanza in the Tao Te Ching is, the Tao that is spoken is not the sacred Tao. And he said, well, I don't know what the Tao Te Ching is. But, I mean, we know now that the Tao is the same as kundalini. And so we went back to the house, and I asked him more, and he said, oh, there's this Indian lady behind it, and he said, here, go and listen to this tape. He didn't come into the room with me. I was listening to this tape. He just sent me into another room, and I listened to the tape. And I suppose I felt very meditative while I was listening to the tape. And then afterwards, he didn't say anything more about Sahaja Yoga.
What was in the tape?
Well, the funny thing about what was on the tape was that Shri Mataji was actually talking about it being now the time that the sages and seers come up, down from the mountains and out of the woods and back into the cities, because we were needed there. I thought, oh no, I've just moved out of London.
Which year was this? Which time?
This was 1980. It's precisely 30. Well, I met Shri Mataji for the first time precisely 30 years ago last Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic. What was it like when you met her?
Well, because I'd taken quite a few drugs, so I suppose I was expecting something a little bit more cosmic than I actually got on the evening. I was expecting a lot of fireworks, and it wasn't like that at all. Sahaja Yoga is never what you expect it to be, and it was very serene, very subtle. I can't say I felt vibrations. I felt sensations in my back. I felt a lot of love from the yogis and from Shri Mataji herself. But I went away feeling that something had definitely happened, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Yeah, and I felt it in my heart, yes, that something had happened.
Right. Thanks, Bernard. Matthew, your mum was already in Sahaj, was she? When you got to know Shri Mataji?
Absolutely, yeah. I think my experience is going to be slightly different from everybody else's here, being that I was about 10 years old, so 31 years ago now. And we obviously, there's two sides for it for me. One was obviously seeing the difference in my mum from the things that potentially she'd been looking, or the routes that she'd been searching through before, which obviously were on the same lines as Bernard, sort of drink and drugs and a few other bits and bobs. But I think the day that she found Sahaja Yoga, she completely changed, and I think me and my brother both noticed that this was something. Even as a 10-year-old, I remember.
What were the thoughts? What were your observations as a child? Then we'd like to know.
I think just the fact that, obviously I think she was a bit more loving towards us. There was a lot more love in the house. Some of the friends that she maybe have associated with before, who weren't maybe so nice, they were all gone, and we were surrounded by Sahaja Yogis. So that was an amazing thing. I think things were slightly different then than they are now. So that the programs that we were taken to, sometimes against our will probably, and the 7-hour pujas that we had to sit through, and 1,001 names, and was just some for an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old were sometimes a little bit boring. I remember being jealous at my brother once because he had a digital stopwatch to play with, and I had nothing.
As a 10-year-old, what was it when you first met Shri Mataji? How did you?
It's weird because I'm trying to remember which was the way. I'm sure obviously we were taken to, I remember Caxton Road as well, Caxton Hall, and I think then we were probably just at the back of the hall trying to stay out of the way. But I have recollections obviously of Mother's first trip to Brighton, which was a train trip down to Brighton. My mum going to the station, late I think as usual, in an old Vauxhall Viva, picking Mother up and bringing her to our house. So I think there were pujas in the front room and downstairs. Mother slept in my mum's bed.
Did you have in all this time when Mother visited your home, did you spend any time with Mother as a child? Did she talk to you, play with you?
Yeah. I mean, there was.
Tell us about it.
I mean, I remember seeing pictures. I don't think there was a. I don't have the word the fear. As a 10-year-old, Mother was the centre of attention.
That's
so.
what we were saying.
For me, I would just worm my way through the front and stand next to Mother. Mother was getting in the car, I was standing at the door, you know, as it was opened. I also remember one time, I spent a lot of my youth in Brighton, obviously, on the amusements. So I remember when Mother was down there with her daughter and her grandchild, and asking them if they could come down to the seafront and go on the amusement arcade. And there are some pictures that I've seen of when we're down there, so that everybody went, a big group of us went down to the amusements. And I know I've seen pictures of Mother and her granddaughter, her child, looking at an end, playing a computer game. So it was just like an extended family. It was, you know, it was like a grandmother coming to stay. So it was, I think it was a lot different. There was no real fear. We just wanted to get up and be close to Mother whenever we could. So.
I remember that feeling when I went to India with Mother, because the first tour we were in Nagpur and there was a music program, and somehow I always seemed to end up sitting next to Mother at music programs. And even in Russia, many years later, when there was a room with thousands of people in it, somehow I ended up at Mother's feet in this huge hall. But when we were in India, it's the first time I met Baba Mama as well, and it was just an incredible evening's music. And at one point I turned to Mother, I said, "Mother, it's just like one big family." Mother got up and said, "Bernard says it's like one big happy family."
Meenakshi, what was your experience like? Were you looking for, were you looking for God when you got your realization?
Right. When I came to Sahaja Yoga, it is actually because of my father, and he was really seeking a lot, and I was only a child, so I didn't know much about, you know.
Where were you?
I was in Bombay, in Mumbai. It's called Mumbai now. And I was going for my exams actually. Next day were my exams, and my father said, no, he had got his realization just the day before. So he's 1972, that was. And actually my father, his story was his best friend, he said to him, I want something that that I can I don't have to depend on a guru. Like normally gurus in India, you know, they either take money or they have some sort of thing which they can't give to the disciples. And that was very innate thing that my father really was expecting. And you know, and being a child, I didn't know much about her, but I heard him saying that to his friend. I still remember that. So, and he said, it's nice to have something that I can stand on my feet and I can do something, you know. And he said, oh really, I know a lady they call her Shri Mataji, why don't I'll take you there, and then I'll you know. And then he went there, and he said, oh, he came home and he said, I've got this realization. And next day was exams. He said, then he took all the family, my mother and my brother as well, and we got our realization there, and that's it really. So, and
what was it like? How old were you when you met Mother? And what did you feel?
About 17, because in 1972, so I was 17 years old.
How did you feel when you saw Shri Mataji? When you
I
met
was,
her?
we had been to, it was in Mother's house actually, in I think Jivan Jyot, and Mother was, there were actually very few people, maybe 10, 15, or at the most 20 people, and that's it, not many at all. And Mother was sitting there, and she just asked us to close our eyes and just sit. And being a small child, you just sit, well, you know, you just do what you have been asked to, and then of course, and then slowly, gradually you meditate, and but that time you don't know much about chakras and things like that, you know, but you go along with your parents, and
Yes.
I saw we used to go to our meetings and things, but as a child I was a little nervous. I was not a brilliant student as such, so I was a little nervous about my studies and my exams, and in India mostly we go to gurus like and say, oh, can I have your blessings, because it's quite common to say, oh, can I have your blessings and things. So I don't know, I used to tell Mother, oh, can you put your hand on, because like Matthew said, Mother was just we were so informal, you know.
Yes.
It was nothing like she really like a mother. And can you put your hand on my head so that my exams go all right? And she used to put the hand on. Yes, don't worry. And at one occasion, I said, "Oh, I've got my SSC exams. That's called GCSE in this generation." And I said, I got an opportunity to give a ring to mother actually.
Wow.
And I rang mother up and I said, I've got my exams, so I just would like your blessings, you know. And mother said, oh, that's fine, don't worry, you know. And that's it. So it was.
You floated through the
Yes,
exam.
yes.
Brilliant.
And also there was one occasion where Shri Mataji in those days used to come to all the meetings, like we have over here now local meetings. She used to attend quite a few meetings, like say maybe 2 meetings or 3 meetings a week. And she used to travel and then sit late till about 11, 12 o'clock at night, work on people. And there used to be 2 rows of people. They used to go on mother's feet. And what used to happen during those days is mother used to just sit like this, and one row for, there were no ladies and men, like they would mix, and people used to go and we could put the hands under her feet and take the vibrations, like really doing namaskar, you know. And it was a lovely experience, that is, because...
Could you talk about that experience? What must have it
Oh
felt
yeah, you can
like?
feel the vibrations coming from the feet of
Yes.
mother when you put your hand underneath her, which, you know, so fortunate to have that experience during that time, which people now won't even know about it. And then mother used to really, mother used to say, oh, come on, this, and then there used to be Sahaja Yogis standing both the sides, and mother used to clear the chakras. And I've seen Kundalini, when they used to go on mother's feet, I have seen Kundalini rising, and the Kundalini rising of a person who is on mother's feet. And supposing if there was a chakra got caught up, right? You could see the throbbing of the Kundalini
Definitely, yeah.
on that sort of chakra, and mother used to clear it out, and then it used to come along on the Sahasrara, because that person used to be on mother's feet. So we could see the Kundalini rising and coming, and that was a really unforgettable experience, you know, which of course the people now won't even think it would, you know. And then we used to take, of course, the bus and then go home. But we used to experience all this sort of thing. And even now, just last year, I went, now 30 years ago, I went back to Bombay, and I saw, let me go to see this Bharati Vidya Bhavan, which mother used to go. And the stage was still there where mother was sitting. And I said, oh my God, the stage is still there, you know. And so, you know, it's beautiful. It was a lovely experience, you know.
Brenda and Rupert, you were married when you first met Sahaja Yoga.
Yeah, but our experience is completely different.
It was intertwined but different.
Yes, can you
Let
tell us?
Rupert tell you the beginning.
Okay.
Well, it
Yes,
was-
please.
It was pure accident because I was trying to improve my martial arts. I was involved in the martial arts, you see. And you're trying to achieve this state of moksha, you know, the Japanese style. And we wasn't getting anywhere. and a friend of mine, he'd been to mother's meetings, but he didn't tell me about it, you see. And he couldn't make Shri Mataji out, so he gave me this tape, little digital audio tape. He says, see what you think of that, Ruth, you know, so what your opinion. So I sat in the garden one August afternoon and put this tape on, and mother's voice, it just sounded so pure to me. I called Brenda out. I said, come and listen to this lady's voice. 100% pure. I don't know why I was saying it, because I know what she was saying didn't make any sense to me. But I just knew that this lady had something that I felt something here but nowhere else, you see. It couldn't make any sense of it. So, to cut a long story short, I went and phoned my friend up and said, where did you get this tape from? Well, I've been going to Caxton Hall, he said, and she goes there, but she's coming to my home. She's going to do a meeting in the East End of London. And she's coming to my house, you see, before the meeting. So if you want to come over, you can meet her there. See? So me and Brenda, we goes over to this place, and as we turned into the street, there's all these, because he lived at 1 Cranbrook Road in Barking, there's all these strange people outside his house, because it was a hot summer day, and they've all got scarves on, and I thought, this is a bit strange, you know, and he had this big wooden Buddha, and they're taking it out and put it in his garden, you see. And I said, what are you doing to your Buddha, John? He says, it's got boots. So it's got to go into the garden. I said, what do you mean it's got boots? He said, well, they'll tell you. So I said to this young fella, you cold, mate? I said, sorry. No, it's I'm protecting my Vishuddhi. Well, I didn't know what he was talking about. So we had a general chat, and then we was in the garden talking to these people, and I had some of my students with me who, you know, used to be teaching, because we thought we were going to get this moksha to improve our martial arts, you see. So we heard someone saying that, Shri Mataji, and we were in the garden, and Mother came into the room. Brenda had an experience before that, but as far as I was concerned, Mother came into the room, and we all followed sort of into the room as well. It's almost where you're sitting now. She sat down like this, you see, and this young Sahaja Yogini come along and went to her feet, and as this girl, Kathy, went to her feet, we saw the Kundalini go up the back, you see, and his mother said, do you see the Kundalini? Do you see the Kundalini?
Was it like light?
No, it was a distinct, transparent snake. That's just what it looked like, you know. And, you know, we were all dumbfounded, you know. I looked at him, he said, yeah. And he had 2 sons who were, in them days, it was something called, there was skinheads, you know, and they didn't like sort of foreigners, if you like. And they wasn't going to have it coming into the house because they didn't want no foreigners coming in the house. They bother boots on everything. But when we looked around, they'd both arrived. They'd come out of the garden, their boots were off, and they were... this, you know, no one told them to do this. No. But what we saw, no one could dispute what we'd seen, you see. And his wife had just left him, my friend, and he had 5 children. And his mother said, you know, are these your children? To Brenda, to my wife. And she said, no, they're not my children, Mother. So she said, well, where are your children? So she said, you know, they're at home. Bring them to the meeting tonight. So we shot home and got the kids, and we went back that evening and sat in front of Mother, and all my lads were there as well. My mother was saying to each of them, you're very right-sided. What are you doing? And they were saying, like, martial arts, oh, you know. So I thought, oh. So the time she got to me, I felt really guilty. I thought, all these bugs, it's all my fault, you know. And when she sort of worked on me, I felt like this, it just felt like an ice cream cone above my head. And then someone said, can you say the Lord's Prayer? And I said, well, I don't know it. So they said it for me, you know. And they said, can you feel the cool breeze? And I could feel this up here, and I thought, it's a window open somewhere. And Mother said, can you feel it? I said, oh, yeah. But it didn't make any sense to me, you see. It felt very good, but it was all alien, completely alien to me. And that was it. She went along to my son, my oldest son, and I just lost my brother who had just died, who was very fond of my oldest son. He used to worry about it, see. And she said to my oldest son, there's somebody here protecting you. You lost someone recently, you know.
And he said, it's my uncle, you know, and I love him. And she said, well, you tell him you're okay now. You'll be fine. You let him go. I'm not going to let him go. But he did eventually. But and then some yogis were going to work on the younger 2 children, and Mother said, no. They realised, you leave them. But my experience was when Rupert was in the garden with his Aiki mem, I was on the kitchen door, leaning, sort of half listening inside and half listening outside. And I didn't hear the house clear out of yogis, but the next voice I heard was, hello. And I turned round and, well, I don't know how I restrained myself from dashing over and hugging her and kissing her. It was as if, well, my heart did recognise Shri Mataji, but the brain doesn't, you see. And I thought, what are you doing? Well, control yourself. And I walked up and I took her hand and I said, I'm so glad you could come. And she just hugged me. But it was such a wonderful experience. You can only relate it to your earthly mother if you've not seen her for years, and suddenly you see her and you think, Mum, you know, and you really want to go and run and hug and kiss them. Well, that's exactly how I felt. But of course, your brain doesn't understand your heart, does it? Yes. You know, and everything else that Rupert said is extremely accurate.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
For years I couldn't comprehend what was going on, and I
For
didn't
years.
believe for about 2 years that these vibrations was coming from me. I kept saying there's a door open somewhere. I couldn't comprehend that this was this cool breeze. And even when I did, it didn't make a lot of sense to me because I was brought up in a different culture. See, in this, you know, people say this is Kundalini, but I thought, well, okay, well, so what? You know, that was my attitude.
You were meditating for these 2 years, though. Or
Oh yes, yeah. We used to. Oh, in fact, we had a fantastic experience. This was another thing.
Oh.
This wasn't to do with meeting Mother. This is after I met Mother. I was still sort of taking it sort of a bit sort of tongue in cheek. And one of these Sahaja Yogis was working on me, and I see him stretch over and pick up this rose, and I thought, he's going to ask to put that in my mouth in a minute. I bet, you know. This was my attitude. I thought, oh, here we go. And he said, put it in the palm of my hand. And as he put it in the palm of my hand, the top of my head blew off. I never felt this ever again. First time I wasn't aware of my head. It felt completely open, you know. And I could feel myself giggling down here, and I felt fantastic. Even there, it was unbelievable. You can't put it in words. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's an experience you have to experience, isn't it? You know, it's not something that's verbally explained. Yeah, and it certainly comes from the heart.
And that's kept me in it. Those two experiences have kept me in it all these years. You know? Yeah, amazing.
Padmini, would you like to share your...
Yeah. When actually I'm small, and my mom used to all the time say the Ganesh Shishya and Devi Kava, so I really enjoy saying this thing. And since I really enjoy this as a worship Shri Ganesha and Devis. And when I think in the school, first my sister get realization, and then we used to go to center, but I just feeling so enjoy their center. I don't know, very nice peace and happy. And we don't met straight away Shri Mataji, but after a few months, Shri Mataji came to Pune, and that time is Shri Ganesh Puja. And my sister, when mother's staying, she went there and she meet mother and everything. And when she come home, she said, I saw Shri Mataji in this, all this is telling about joy. And I said, then inside my mind said, I must go and see Shri Mataji. And second day, I just said to my mom, I'm going today meeting Shri Mataji, but don't wait me when I come back home. And that time is in Pune is so much traffic because when the Ganesh statue sitting that time is all the traffic jam and everything. And I went myself alone. And I just inside said, I want to meet Shri Mataji, and without meeting her, I'll never come back home. And I went, I got address and I went there. And I said, I'm not knocking door, but I just wait outside the door and just pray inside the mother. Then some foreigner come and open the door, so I follow him. I just went to the sitting room, there's mother's photographs, everything. And I just, inside just saying, Srimati, please, I want to see you today, meet you. Another lady comes, she said me, how long you saw yoga, this and that. She asked so many questions, and I just gave her answer. But she said, no, it's tomorrow's puja, you can meet her there, and this and that. But I just say anything, I just stand there inside, just praying. And little while Mataji come there.
Oh.
And we sit in the sofa, and then there's Yogi Mahajan there. They're offering all this durva, they call green things, offering Shri Ganesha. And that's giving the pujas, and Shri Mataji is chatting with us, and I just so much tremendous joy. You know, and she asked me, I think 83 something. And that's a really great experience. After that, after a few years, Shri Mataji's been Pratishthan. So that time my sister's marriage arranged. So I went there, give her invitation. Her mother says, I can't come. But she said, I can send some Sahaja Yogi. Because she said so much crowd there. And I'm still that time very new, I don't know about it. And then she sent lots of foreign there. And that she called my husband as a John before he come to marriage. And she said, you know, the girls getting married, her sister like it, you can get married with her. So And that's the time our marriage decision, and we get married.
So you went to give Shri Mataji the marriage invitation
My
for
sisters.
your sister, and then you got married.
How good is
So,
that?
yeah. And after that, means after when I went to first in Italy, and I used to cook for Shri Mataji's. And one day Shri Mataji said, we going to the picnic, Dalio. I said, okay. So, because mother's granddaughter like keema is a kind of minced lamb, and some paratha she like. And that day I'm just only myself in kitchen. Mother suddenly come. She said, come on, I can show you how to make the keema.
Oh.
And she just
Tell us about it. How did
and then she just before she said me chop little garlic, gingers, and small onions, thing. And she put some oil in the pot, and some garam masala is kind of cardamom, lavang, and this dalchini things. And then she put the gingers and garlic, and she don't put in she just direct hold the pot. I said, Shri Mataji, please take some cloth. And she said, no, okay. Yeah, she's just holding. And then when she fry garlic, onion, then she put the keema, and she's cooked and salt, and she just gave me a hand, say, how it tastes like? And I said, oh, such a nice, such a tremendous thing, And I used to go, Miss Mother show me how to make her bed, everything. Yeah, and when she sometimes wash her hair, so we dry her hair with ajwain dhuni, and such a tremendous, just very
How did
gently.
you feel when you washed mother's hair
Not to wash mother's hair. When mother wash her hair, we dry her ajwain.
it with ajwain?
Yeah, it's we really very careful because sometimes they get noise and thing. But it's such a tremendous thing, and when mother showed me how to make the bed, all this thing, I just saw, because I don't use how to make the bed in a Western style, and she just showing it, and it's such a tremendous joyful. And the keema she makes really beautiful. And next thing, my husband used to work in Ealing, so mother came to Ealing. And one day suddenly what happened, Subha used to massage mother's feet, and mother just sent message to me, call Padmini massage my feet to other feet. So one side Subha was massaging and one side me massaging. When such a tremendous feeling, I really want to massage mother's feet. And that day, such a feeling, really joyful. And massaging mother's feet, and feeling all the vibrations just go in your heart.
Yes.
And that's really joyful. And after a few months, I think, after a little while, I pregnant that time. Then mother called me again, and she used to say, be pregnant, sit on the chair, and when I massage, all the vibration go in the tummy. And then she used to tell her story. She said, when I'm pregnant, my dad used to take me go for a walk. And she said to me, that time Ealing, we used to live there. She said, don't go in high hill, just go to this level of hill and all these things. We used to really laugh and everything.
Yes.
And such a wonderful things, and I still remember things.
Yes.
As another is a really good experience. When I get married, my husband stayed 6 months there. He's just doing some glass cutting and fixing this thing. And one day I can't go to the Pratishthan, and I said, I must phone and tell him. And I phoned, and Shri Mataji picked up the phone. I had 30 minutes speaking with Shri Mataji. And that time I don't realize, I said, Shri Mataji, can you give the message to John? I'm not coming to Pratishthan. It's that time I don't realize. I'm saying to God, give the message. I just, and 30 minutes chat each other, how this and that, and even she picked up the phone, I'm not saying Jai Shri Mataji, nothing, just it looked like as a friend. And I think she, next day I went to Pratishthan, I think, and me and John walked in, and I think she come other side, and I think she forgot, and they said, sorry John, I don't tell you, your wife already phoned me and tell me, she's not coming. And just, I know, just such innocent, and sometimes I say, Shri Mataji, you're really Adi Shakti, I'm just talking with her, I just think, and now I think about how I talk with Shri Mataji, she is the Adi Shakti,
Yes.
And when Shri Mataji, before I leave the Kabela, with full handful, she gave me as a good Lakshmi, give me English coins.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's really nice.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you. Hattie, would you like to share your experience? When did you realize you were seeking?
A long time ago, I was young, And I had the misfortune to find this guru in Hampstead.
Right.
And I went there for about 16 years. I met my best friend there, Magda, who became a Sahaja Yogi. And this man was very dour. You weren't allowed, if you weren't already married, you were celibate, you weren't allowed to, have any relationships with people. It was like that. And in a way it was helpful because I was an actress and it did keep me out of a lot of troubles that I could have got into. But anyway, I got in quite a bad state. I'd been going there for 16 years, and then Magda, who lived in Hampstead, she said, "Oh, there's a lady yogini coming to give a program. Let's go." And I was in such a bad state, I was so left-sided, I didn't go. It was on a Saturday, and Magda went with her daughter Danya. And I saw them afterwards, and they were full of this lady. "Oh, she's lovely. She's got lots of flowers. She holds the babies. And everybody talks to each other." I said, "It's wonderful." So the next week, I went to Caxton Hall, and Shri Mataji wasn't there. Anyway, they sat me in the front. I sat in front of the photograph, and I had an amazing experience. I just felt everything I feel for my own mother came up in cinemascope. All these emotions that you have about your mother, it was just huge. And so I had this idea about Shri Mataji, that she was going to be a little lady, "Oh, come darling, have a cup of tea, lots of jewellery, flowers, all friendly." So I went to Caxton Hall the week after, and Mother, I was sitting right in the front, I was as near as I am to Brenda, sitting there, and there was Mother's chair, and she came in, and she wasn't anything like this little lady covered in flowers, "Have a cup of tea, dear." She looked like an opera star. She had the white, she swept in, she looked round, and you know how she does sometimes, she looks like that. And the first thing, and I was having a very bad relationship with someone at the time, the first thing she said was, "This silly woman in New York, she's wasting her life on this worthless man, she's throwing her life away." And Magda, she was sitting next to me and she went, anyway, I mean, to say I was awestruck is putting it mildly. I thought, here Mother looked like the epitome of intelligence. She had the most wonderful skin, like a child, beautiful. And she had this garland of marigold that she took off. And because we were sitting right there, she gave us the flowers to smell. And then she spoke. And I don't know what to say. It was just amazing. And then in those days, she used to get up and she'd worked on everyone. And when she got to me, she put her hand on my head and she went, "Oh, the clash with the world, the heat." Anyway, I went home, and the next week I still went to this other guru. I'd been there going for so long, and I thought, well, this isn't right. And a few days later I went to Caxton Hall again, and we took a friend of ours from this meeting who was very rude to Mother, which was horrible. But at the end, Mother, when we all got up, Mother clasped my hands. I was sitting on the end. She said, "Don't worry about anything. All the warmth is there. You're going to be all right." And I was far from all right, but after a few weeks it got better. And then after that, I just never looked back. Eventually, I got married in Sahaja, and I became Mother's secretary, and I spent lots of time with her. So I can never thank Mother for what she got me out of and how much she's given me.
Yes. When was your first meeting with Mother?
It was 1980. In fact, it's Bernard's just had his anniversary. Mine's coming up next week, I think. 16th of June, 1980.
Yes. That's very nice. Would anyone feel like to share the funny moments of Shri Mataji? Because it's so informal, those times. Yeah. There must have been so many, probably.
Yes, there was one in France. Could I just say something? Yes, we were sitting in her bedroom, and she looked in the mirror, and she said to me, "I have to hide who I am every minute of the day. I have to hide who I am." And of course, in those days, you didn't really get what she meant, because it's not like it is now, where it's absolutely awesome.
What did you make of it when Mother said that?
Well, I took it in. She has to hide who she is, and of course she is an amazing actress. Yes. There's nobody better than her. She took me to the bank once. She wanted to get some jewellery out because her husband was taking her to some reception. So we went into this bank, she and I think there was one other person, and Mother changed. She looked like some little immigrant lady. She looked very big, she had a camel coat on, she had a scarf. She looked just like a little immigrant. And we went up to the counter, and the girl said, "Oh, shall I speak to you?" She spoke to Mother as if Mother didn't understand English. So Mother said, "Yes, you talk to her, you talk to her." So then they got the strong box out, and we went into the next room, and then all that dropped. There was Mother. She's a superb actress.
Have you had any of those moments, Bernard?
Yeah, I have. I went shopping with Mother once in Southall. It was the weekend of some weddings in London. This is quite a well-documented story of mine, but
I was in this wedding.
when I got back. Was it Cheltenham Road?
Yes, Cheltenham Road, yeah.
Well, we were living in the hotel in Bramham Gardens in Earl's Court, and well, in those days we had a housing collective in London, which I know Fergie's trying to resurrect, but there was this guy who got hold of all these old properties that were up for redevelopment, and he'd already got hold of one in Warwick Road, and there were a load of yogis living there, and it was the first time I was going to live collectively with yogis. And the night before I moved in, he said, "Oh, I've just got hold of this big hotel, you've got to move in." So Mia and myself moved into this hotel, and we were rattling around in this hotel for a couple of weeks, just the two of us with the 20 bedrooms. And then Shri Mataji said she had to move out of her old house, and the new house in Brompton Square wasn't ready. So she said, "Oh, I'll move into the hotel." So of course, immediately the hotel filled up. But before Shri Mataji arrived, she had this weekend of weddings, and we put up all the yogis who came from abroad in this hotel. And it was the first time I experienced having to cater for a large group of people. Anyway, they all turned up on the Friday night, and we had a manic evening, sort of trying to produce a food for 40 people and sorting people out and that sort of thing. And then the next morning we got the message from Mother that all the brides were to go and stay at Cheltenham Road that day in the evening, and all the grooms were to go off to Southall to go and buy curtains and pyjamas for the wedding. So suddenly the house was empty again, and we were left in this hotel on our own, and twiddling my thumbs and wondering what I should do next, and probably drifting off into the left a bit. And suddenly the call went out, "Mother's here!" I thought, "Oh my God!" So we all rushed down into the foyer, and there, sure enough, was Mother. Not only was her Mother, but there seemed to be a load of other yogis who'd sort of suddenly come out of the woodwork, I don't know where from. Anyway, we were standing there, and Mother had come to look over where she was going to stay when she moved in, and she said, "Oh, we couldn't find my car keys anywhere. We had to come over here by taxi, and I need to go and do some shopping in Southall. Has anyone got a car?" And I was right at the back of this group of people, and I heard this voice at the front saying, "Yes, Mother, Bernard's got a car." And, well, I don't know whether you could actually call it a car. It was a rusty old Mini. You don't see them in this state these days, but it had rust in the floor. You could see the road as you were travelling along. It had plants growing along in the windows. It had no suspension. The suspension was completely shot. And, I mean, it was just a complete wreck. And I was hustled to the front. And, Shri Mataji said, "Oh, that'll do." I said, "Are you sure you want to go in this car, Mother?" And she said, "Yes, no problem, no problem." So we went out, and I think, oh my goodness, it was an absolute wreck, this car. Anyway, opened the door, Mother got in, and we drove off, and there was a sort of big, harsh farewell as we drove off up the street. And then when we got to Southall, what's the first thing we see? A big group of Sahaja Yogis walking along the street. So Mother says, oh, pull over. So I pull over, and suddenly, the yogis all honked the car, and these yogis looked up and said, oh, who's that? It's Shri Mataji! And so they all crowded around the car, and of course, it being Southall, if there's a crowd, a crowd gathers. So suddenly, there's this huge, great crowd of people all crowded around the car, and they're all sort of peering in, trying to see who or what's in the car. Anyway, Shri Mataji gave some instructions to the yogis to where the best place was to go and buy some curtas and stuff, and she said, right, we've got to go off. And so we drove literally 40 yards up the road, parked the car, and got out of the car, and it was just me and Shri Mataji, and we went into this sari shop, and no crowd, just Shri Mataji, another Indian lady walking into this sari shop, and it was, there couldn't have been more of a contrast. And the main thing afterwards, I remember we went to another sari shop, and Mother said, "I'll pull over," and it was a yellow line, and there was this bus right beside me, and I leapt out and was opening the door for Mother. And this bus stopped, and the driver started swearing his head off at me. I thought, he can't do this, I'm with the anti-Shakti. But anyway, Mother said, oh, you better go and park the car, So I went off and parked the car, and then on the way back, I apologised for the state of the suspension of the car, because it was very bumpy. And Mother said, oh, I don't feel anything, it's just like being on a cloud. And, well, I certainly felt on a cloud.
Yes, I was going to ask, how did it feel driving Mother?
Well, you can't really put it into words.
Yeah, because on one front you're sort of very aware of the state of the car and Mother there, and also the state of joy and upliftment that you feel when Mother's there as such. So quite a contrast.
Yeah, I still
Yes.
don't know how to put it in words. Really.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, there's an it was Mother was coming to the island, and we'd arranged to pick her up at Fishbourne Ferry. Yeah.
Yes.
And me and my family were waiting for Mother, and phone went, and someone said, Mother's here. I said, oh, we'll be down at Fishbourne. No, they said she's at Ryde, which is 11 miles further on, you see. And I thought, God, how can I keep Mother waiting all that time? So me and my oldest son jumped in the car, shot to the end of the street, and as we got to the end of the street, an ambulance was going past with its sirens going. So we got in behind the ambulance and drove all the way to Ryde, right past the ferry. And, it was amazing that we just stuck to this ambulance. Don't know where it was going, it just drifted off once we got to Ryde, straight up to the pier. And I said, Mary, I'm very sorry. That he was like, no, she said, don't worry, I've been vibrating the place. Never worry about that, she said. You're always in time. And we drove her back, but it was amazing that we got all that way behind his ambulance.
In about 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it took us, about a third of the time, But these are the sort of strange things that used to happen all the time, And when I asked Mother, could I drive? She said, of course you can. Who else would drive? This is how beautiful she was, Yeah, amazing.
Very, very, very simple and very unbelievable.
That's right, yeah. Most of the stories are unbelievable. That's why we keep them to ourselves, I think.
Well, you had to wait that night, didn't you?
Yes, Ruth.
In Bristol.
Tell us.
The story of the keys and everything.
Yeah.
Yes, Shri Mataji stayed with us in Bristol for the night, and then we went on to Exeter, where in one day Shri Mataji held a little puja with about 12 people, did a television interview, and then in the evening did a public programme. And then after that she decided she wanted to go back to Bristol again. So I set out with Mother. She said, come with me. So, just after we set out, I realised that Chris, my husband, had the key to our house. And so I said, Mother, my husband's got the key. And so she said, let's go back. So we went back. We hadn't been set out very long. But he'd already left with Linda Pierce, and I think it was just with Linda Pierce and Data, her son. So meanwhile, we went back to Bristol, arrived at the old Vicarage. This is a big house where we had a flat. And we couldn't get in because Chris hadn't turned up with the key, so we waited for a while. He didn't turn up. And this went on, and various things happened. Mother got me to try her keys in the door. And time passed, and I was sort of thinking, gosh, what are we going to do? And Mother went to sleep in the front seat. And all sorts of things were going through my mind. And eventually she woke up again, and she said, why don't we go and get a drink? So we drove around Bristol for a while, and we couldn't find anywhere to get a drink. Everywhere was shut by that time, but we found a little street vendor in one of these little vans, and we had hot chocolate. I remember that. Just very nice, and we talked about hot chocolate and whether it was good for your liver or she said just have it with less milk, because I think it was Nick Kershaw. He said, but what if you've got a bad liver, Mother? And she said, oh, just have it with less milk. She said, it's a very good drink to have before you go to bed at night, and but don't have tea after 6 o'clock, she said.
Don't have
tea after 6 o'clock. And then we drove around, we came back to the old Vicarage, and they still weren't there. And by now it was really, really late. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning or something. Just didn't know what had happened to Chris and Linda, and so I was thinking, oh gosh, what are we going to do? And there was another flat in Bristol where my brother was living, where I had previously lived, which was a very, very humble place. And I was thinking,
I was living there.
Yeah, it was very humble, wasn't it? Very humble indeed.
There were four of us,
yeah.
4 of us living in a one-bedroom flat.
And so, in the end I said, Mother, there is another flat we could go to, because I just thought we've got to go somewhere for the night. And Alan lives there. She said, oh, let's go there. So we went there, and Alan Richards had gone to bed, and he'd kind of woke up when he heard the front door, came to the door, and he was all covered in kumkum and kajal all around his eyes, and he kind of came to the door, and there was Shri Mataji at the front door. And then it was such a humble place. I mean, in the main bedroom there was just a mattress on the floor, not even a proper bed.
Yes, it was.
Not when Shri Mataji slept there, because believe me, I remember.
Well, she slept. I remember. She slept in my bed.
Well, she was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. This is.
Which one was that then?
Because I remember
Oh,
apologising.
that must have been their first house.
Tell us the
This was Hampton Road.
No, because I was living there. Because what happened? Well, my version of the story is what had happened. The Exeter Yogis had put on a meal for everyone. And after the public programme, most of the yogis went back to this place for a meal. And Ruth had gone off with Mother. This is how I remember it. Anyway.
It would be better if one person tells the story, because I'm going to lose the thread.
All right, okay.
And I was there.
Remind us of the time you're talking about.
Yeah, this was in, it was before I had my daughter, so it was 1982, in about November, I think. And so we went back to this flat, and Mother slept in the bedroom on the mattress on the floor, and Pam was there, and it was Janet, Ridley, me and Pam. We all slept in the hall outside Mother's room, and there were a few men, I think, I can't remember who they were, but they were in the sitting room. And in the morning, Mother said, "Oh, where did you sleep?" And we said, "In the hall, Mother." And she said, "Oh, you should have slept in here with me." And she told us to wake her up at 8:30 in the morning, I think it was. And so Janet and me went in at 8:30, and we hadn't had much sleep that night, and we didn't want to wake Mother up. We didn't know how to wake Mother up. We just went in and we bowed down, and we both fell asleep. So we were bowed down on the floor, fast asleep, and then eventually Mother woke up. And Mother said, "I'll go and find out what's happened. Where was Chris and everything?" And so I went to the phone box, because we didn't have any mobile phones or anything then, yes. And we didn't even have a phone in the flat. And I went and phoned Chris, and what had happened was they'd broken down on the motorway. They had the key, and they'd broken down. It was Linda Pierce and him and Data. And so by the time they got back, obviously all this had happened. And meanwhile, Alan, my brother, had come back to the old vicarage, had laid down in his car, sleeping, to wait for someone to turn up. That's right, he must have come after Mother had left. And then Chris and Linda came back, went into the flat, not seeing Alan. And so Alan spent the night outside the old vicarage asleep, when he actually lived in the flat that Shri Mataji was sleeping in. And he'd had the desire for her to come to the flat. So it was just so funny, the whole thing.
It's a whole comedy of errors.
Exactly, because she was in his flat, he was sleeping outside the old vicarage, unaware of any of this going on. This is where Mother was supposed to be staying with us, where she'd stayed the previous night before we went to Exeter.
Well, my version of events was that the Exeter Yogis had put on a meal for us. So most of the yogis, because I remember there were about, I don't know, there were quite a number of people who'd come down from London for this programme. And we stayed for the meal, and eventually got back to Bristol at 2 o'clock in the morning to find Mother locked out of your flat. Mm-hmm. And so he said, "Oh, you better come back to our flat." So I remember rushing back to our flat.
Oh, you went to
which, as I said, there's four boys sleeping in a one-bedroom basement flat, and we had about 20 people staying there. And of course, we rushed into the bedroom, rushed round to make sure there wasn't anything nasty lurking, any dirty socks or anything. A quick clean up before Mother arrived, and then Mother arrived in the room. Yeah. And I remember her actually before we vacated the room, just sitting down and getting into the bed, and everyone backed off. And I remember there were some ladies who actually slept in the room with her, because I slept in the hall that night.
Well,
Must have been a different night.
Yeah, Chris wrote it all down in his diary. I assure you, it was Pam, me and Janet Ridley sleeping in the hall outside Mother's room. And in the morning I apologised to Mother. I said, "I'm so sorry you've had to sleep on this mattress on the floor and in such humble surroundings." And she said, "Don't worry, it's fine. It's been a lovely bed. I've had a lovely time, and don't worry, it's been fine."
Well, I remember there was a bed, which Mother slept in.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That's very, very interesting how one incident can have two.
Yeah, because I had to sleep on the floor for three nights after that. So.
Great, thanks.
Well, yes, she was in the bed in the room. Yeah.
In Brompton Square once, I remember being in there, and Shri Mataji was sleeping behind the front door. And she had this huge house and a beautiful bedroom, but she wasn't in the room because the grandchildren were watching the television. And Mother was asleep on the floor next to the front door.
Wow.
Amazing.
It's amazing indeed. That's great. All of you spent considerable amount of time with Mother in very informal manner. So do you remember any advice on day-to-day things that Mother gave you? What was it?
Shall I tell you
Yes,
something?
please.
This was quite a big lesson and has helped me. I'm sorry, my phone went off. Does somebody want to put my bag in the hall? I don't want it to go off again. Would you mind? Thank you. I was looking after her visas passport. I had to go to the High Commission a lot. And usually people knew who Mr. Srivastava was because he was Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization. And then the staff changed, and I took the passport in to have it renewed. She had about four books all stuck together. And this man was so horrible. He was unbelievable. He didn't know who he never heard of Mr. Srivastava. And anyway, to cut a long story short, he wouldn't do anything for me, and I went out quickly and I rang Sir CP's office and I told the secretary. I didn't dare speak to Sir CP, and they told me what to do, dealing with this man. Anyway, he was a really horrible person, and I got quite a quick temper, and he just made me so angry I could have smacked his face. Anyway, a few months later I had to go again to get some visas, and I got the wrong ones because it was him, and I got uptight, and he gave me the wrong thing. And I remember going round to Mother's house with this passport, and I gave it to her, and she said, "This isn't right, you've done the wrong thing here." So I said, "Well, this man was so horrible." And she sent the family out of the room, and she said to me, "Did I give you that necklace?" I had a crummy old necklace on. I said, "No, Mum." I said, "Well, I'm glad I didn't give you that." And then she changed her tone, and she said to me, "Now, this man, you can't afford to behave like that. You're not a street woman. You've got to be very, very nice to him. You've got to go in and say, 'Thank you very much. That is so kind of you.'" So I went in again.
Oh, no.
And again he was horrible. I felt my gorge rising up. I thought, "No, thank you very much. That's so kind of you." And eventually that man became my best friend in the High Commission. And he used to gave me letters that they weren't allowed to take out of the High Commission for Mother to sort out. And it was a standing joke, because every time I went round to Mother's house, Sir CP used to say, "And how is Mr. How is Mr. Tony?" And then eventually that's what happened. And it was a big lesson that if you're dealing with somebody horrible, you just have to be very nice. "Thank you very much." And I've tried that many times since, and it never fails. Beautiful. That's from Mother's good advice.
Yes. Sometimes I think it's just my experience that sometimes what Mother says in her talks and all is so important that you have to put more in practice than and to put in practice is more difficult than, I think. And because in my work, I find there's a lot of gossiping, this, that going on. But I remember my father used to say that, even if a negative thought comes to your mind, it can affect the other person, and it's very true, So what I do is I just let my love flow, and that can really change that opposite person as well. Because in the past, I've had managers who have been very not nice to me for no reason, and of course it upsets you and all that, but then you just forgive, and when you forgive, you really have to forgive. It's a very difficult thing. Forgive from the heart and let the love flow, and that changes that person, and you'll be surprised to see that person really changes, And not only that, the other managers once told me that, "Oh my God, you're the only person I've seen in the store, that that you are neither with this one, that one, this, that sort of thing, but you are just," I said, "See, when I do Sharon, I do it from the heart. You may like it or you may not like it, because there's so much, like Mother has said in a prayer, not to lead me into superficiality, and there's so much superficiality in the society that is unbelievable, because you think sometimes, oh my God, if I behave this, maybe she might think I'm superficial, because the society is full of superficiality, and you think, but I said, no, I shouldn't think negative like that. Today or tomorrow she will realize that I am not superficial, I am genuine, And sometimes Mother, and another thing, small things, is Mother tries to show, if you do it from the heart and things like that, Mother tries to show the work people or show the society that you're genuine. Because I work in a store and I got an award for from one of my customer who nominated me, which I didn't know, and my name was in the newspaper and my photograph and everything, which was such a, and everybody was stunned. All the English people and all the other people, they were so stunned. Aren't we good enough? And I said, I don't do anything because I just do it, and I from the heart. And not only that, and even in the interview in the paper, I just said that when I helping customers or whatever, I just do it from I do it genuinely. I don't just do it for the show thing. So what this one is said, it's a real experience that you really have to forgive and spread that love from the heart, and it just flows, and today or tomorrow, you know.
Yes. You came to England after marriage.
Yes, I actually, there's a few experiences is that, you know, I've been with mother, and there are few experiences in the sense that Anand was very small, and the thing is, actually I was not going to go to, I was on the tour with mother, and I was not going to go to some other place called Sholapur or and mother said, are you coming to? And I said, no mother, I have to go get back to work and things like that. And mother said, no, you must come there. So mother gave Bandon to my work and said, oh, you must come there. I said, all right, I'll get there. And then, because mother had to arrange this engagement of mine, which I didn't know even. And on the tour, mother arranged this engagement, which, you
Tell
know.
us about it, please.
Just that before marriage, I had really quite a bit of ego, because during those days of, I got married in 1983, and not many people were married that time to an English person, and my mother knows everybody's heart, though I haven't told mother that I don't want to get married to an English person. Actually, mother said to my brother, your sister won't accept the boy that I choose for her. Because my mother was saying that, oh, why don't you get married to, you know, this, because mother was looking for an Indian girl, and I wasn't really ready at all. You know, I really didn't want to get married to a foreign boy, because it's a very high conditioning that in India, especially now, it's all changed, like 27 years. But you can imagine an Indian girl, if I take an English husband to India, I don't know, the whole of the Bombay will yes, you know, that sort of thing. But mother, what I'm trying to say is that mother makes you know, mother makes you realize, mother doesn't push you, mother makes you understand, gives you time, patience and everything, and that sort of thing. So mother made me realize that, okay, because she wanted me to come to the West, and she wanted me to do her work. So she brought me here because that was the real. So even if my father was looking for a boy in India, it was not getting matched. In fact, mother shows her how Maya as she is, because she being Adi Shakti, she arranged a boy from India for me, and even that didn't work out, because she knew where. But in order to fulfill the desires of the Sahaja Yogis, she does place that drama, you know, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, I went at mother's feet and I said, Mother, I surrender all my ego to you, because I knew that my brother is a very strong Sahaja Yogi, and he's going to get married. My parents are going to die one day or the other, and I'll be left in India with nobody. So it's better to surrender myself now.
This
and
was
be
in Sholapur?
No, that was in Nilambar. Nilambar, and that was Rajesh Shah's flat in 1981 or 82. I'm not sure. Yeah, 82 I think. And I was with mother in the car, and mother said, there's a boy in England. And I was sitting very close to mother, how far Ruth was in the car with mother, and mother said, I still remember mother's hand was on here, and mother said, there's a boy in England. And I thought, oh, there is a boy in England, I don't have to worry now. Still, I don't know when it's going to happen, so I shouldn't worry, you know. So, you know, you just, the human this, you know. But mother is Adi Shakti, and it's you know, it's again a Maya, you know. And of course, and then I went. That's the time when mother asked me to come to Rahuri, and that's where my engagement took place. And actually, mother had asked Malcolm, my husband, before me, and I had no idea that mother had already spoken to him and things like that. So, and then I was with mother that time, again in the room with mother, and mother said, can you go out? And I said, okay. And so I went out, and that's when Malcolm came in, and he said, because mother had given him the choice to choose either Indian girl or an Australian girl, and mother, he said, it's all right, this Indian girl, but it's such a maya that Malcolm had already come to my house even the year before.
So he'd already visited you before?
Yes, and I
that
knew
time
him
you-
as just a Sahaja Yogi and foreigner, and said hello even, but I didn't know he was going to be my husband. So that sort of thing, you know. So mother just asked me one day, there was going to be a Havan in Rahauri, and then mother said, okay, now I'm announcing the engagement of Malcolm and Kamakshi, because my name was Kamakshi before marriage, and mother changed to Meenakshi. She even said that so that in England people can call you Meena, so the non-Sahaja Yogis call me Meena. So that small detail mother looks at the things, you know, and she even told me to do my driving test, driving in India, and also typing in India. And when I came to the West, I learned driving, and I passed first time. And I used to think people who pass first time, they must be really very clear, you know, something. But I didn't know I was. So when the examiner told me, you have passed, I said, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I really literally started crying in front of it. And because in the morning I had stole the car and things like that. And Malcolm said to me, why did you have got a test today, Meenakshi? And so he couldn't believe, because in the family of even my husband's family, they were passed first time. They all had passed second, third time. So it's all such a maya and everything. Yeah, I stole the car in the morning. Stole the car, you know. So, but I did pass first time, which you know was, I think, everything.
Pretty
you know.
impressive.
Yeah. So and then when I was at mother in Rahauri, and then of course mother and when mother said about this engagement, mother mentioned Kamakshi's name, and what had happened was, I thought, because I had mother's handbag with me, mother wanted a handkerchief or something, so I ran to this, but mother was already, she just asked me whether Malcolm is all right for you, and I said yes, and she just announced the engagement, finished. That's it, and next 4 days I was married even, you know. So that was that quick, you know. But when I was with mother once, mother asked me to put my hand on all, not all the chakras. I remember Swadhisthana chakra and Ajna chakra, and I could feel the vibrations of the chakra so strong that, you know, you can't really take the vibrations from mother, you know. They're very strong chakras. And that time mother said, I'm taking all the badhas from this, and I'm trying to clear the chakras. Even she said that to me. So, you know. And then she, of course, that was all before the marriage even. So afterwards the engagement took place, and then the marriage and everything.
And then you came to England in 1983.
Yes, I came to England. In fact, I came to England, I got married in January 21st, 22nd. There were 2 marriages that time. And in fact, that's another maya, because there were a lot of Sahaja Yogis. We used to live very close to the airport, so there were a lot of Sahaja Yogis, Patricia, everybody. They have come to my place, Kay and everybody. So, and it was going to take place on 21st, but she all of a sudden said that it will happen next day. So we had it next day, and mother was there the whole 5 hours. She came from 5 o'clock. Mine was the only marriage, and mother was there for the whole marriage.
Where was this happening?
In Bombay, in Mumbai, at Sion, you know. And again, this engagement, when it took place in Rahauri, my father was concerned that how are you going to get the hall in Bombay? But somebody cancelled the hall for 4 days, and all the foreigners could stay up, and there was a hall down, so they could. And the non-Sahaja Yogis, they've never seen a marriage like this marriage, because all the foreigners had put the saris and the gajras, and it was a remarkable marriage. And mother just got us married, you know. Rahul Bhai was there and she was on the stage. I was very fortunate, honestly, to be so much, you know.
Yes, very,
Yes,
very
with
special.
all special thing, you know. And then after the marriage, there was a drama and things like that. So she spent, and she was really satisfied. She said to my father, "I'm really very pleased with everything today." So,
Matthew, did you have any experiences?
Just trying to remember if there was something that Mother said. I will go back to the funny thing though, which I've just remembered, which was when Mother came to stay at our house. Obviously, I was at school. I was at a middle school, Church of England school, and I went to school one day, and I think in a religious class, I told the teacher that God was staying at my house. And
Were you still 10?
I was 10 or 11, whatever age it was.
God is staying at home.
Yes, we talked about God, and it was like, well, it's okay because she's at my house. And yeah, I think my mother went along. She was obviously summoned to the school because they wanted to know what their child was saying, and my mum went along with probably Kingsley or someone like that, and the pair of them explained that, you know, I wasn't crazy. Actually, she was. She's not there now. She's left, but she was there last week.
What did you make of it?
Oh, he just thought they were absolutely crazy, and wasn't convinced at all when he left. But there was no, you know, Mum was absolutely sure that, you know, God was staying there. So he was wrong and she was right. Yeah.
Children say such funny things. My daughter brought one of her friends home from school, and the friend saw a photograph of Shri Mataji there. My daughter was about 6 then, and the friend said, "Who's that?" And my daughter said, "My mother." And the friend looked a bit surprised, and then Lakshmi pointed at me and she said, "That's not my mother, that's just the person that looks after me." And I really kind of, it really made me think.
That reminds me of my granddaughter. She had a badge of mother, and one of her friends said, "Who's that?" She said, "That's God's wife." She was 9 at the time.
She's God's wife. Fantastic.
So cute.
Did Mother cook for you?
Oh,
Yes, many times.
Could you tell us something about it, about this taste and the smells?
It's only ever been repeated once. Mother did a chicken dish with rice, and it was absolutely fantastic. And whenever I tried to repeat it, without the recipe I might add, it never really worked until we went to America, and 2 male Sahaja Yogis, Shamik and Suhas, recreated this dish from Mother's cookbook, and it was just like Mother made it. It was absolutely wonderful, wasn't it? Absolutely, just like she made it.
But she used to cook for everyone at Caxton Hall.
Oh, yes.
She'd cook these
Every
vast meals. In fact, lots of my friends went because of the meal. And they had this meal, and I says, "God," you know, and it was so nourishing. And we heard later that Mother was clearing out the narby, you see.
Yes, we all went
But it was
into
quite-
thoughtlessness.
It was
Well,
quite,
I had a meal.
but it was fantastic. And she'd sit there for hours while people were eating this food. Well, and every individual that went up to her, she'd be there for hours and hours.
And there used to be many,
Oh
many
yes,
people in
yeah,
Caxton.
I'm used to go, yeah.
Yes.
She cleared us all out with that, because
Yeah.
people were in quite a bad state.
I had a meal at Shudi Camps, and Mother had cooked, and I just felt so satisfied that I couldn't move, and I just literally for about 2 or 3 hours afterwards I was just sitting, and it was bliss. I mean, I just felt all this warmth. I mean, a beautiful kind of comforting warmth spreading out from my narby, and it was very. I really literally felt as if I was floating after I'd eaten this food.
Is there any miracles that, I mean, it's all sounds
Hundreds, yeah. Where do you begin?
Which ones kind of stand out in your memory that you'd like to share now?
There's the one over the passport. This was when I first dealt with the passport. I did find it difficult. I went to the High Commission. She wanted some pages put in because she'd run out. She was going back to India. So I went round with a book and I said to the man, "Oh, Mrs. Srivastava would like some more pages, please." And he said, "No, I can't do it. She's still got a page left." I said, "Well, she's going to India and she's going touring." "No, I can't do it. If I make an exception for her, I have to do it with everybody." So you don't expect people to behave like that, but they were very difficult. So I took the passport back and I said to Mother, "He won't do it, Mother." He said, "I want it done, go back." So I went back with this passport and I said, "I'm sorry, Shri Mataji needs these pages." And he categorically said he wouldn't do it. So I took the passport back to Mother and said, "I'm sorry, Mother, he won't do it." So he said, "All right." She went to India, and that year I went on the tour. And I was sitting on a tree stump in Ganapati Pule, and at the back, and I heard her say, there was a miracle with the passport. She said some pages appeared. So I pricked up my ears, and she came back to London in April. I got the passport, and there, the very day when he said he wouldn't give it, there was the stamp with his name and the pages. And afterwards I thought, well, there will be other miracles with the passport. I've no need to worry, but it never happened.
Just on time.
That's an amazing one with Bandon.
Yes.
Because in the early days I used to put bandons on things, but I didn't really actually believe with my heart. I found it very hard to believe that doing this could actually affect anything. And we went to a puja in London, and Mother was talking about bandons, and she said, "You know, when you put a bandon on something, it's like you're actually telephoning to me when you do this." And I really thought about it, and I was really trying to imbibe what she was saying and so on. And that night we were staying at Janet Ridley's flat in London, and we were going on to Sussex the next day to see Chris's grandfather, and we had just Lakshmi then, and she was very small, and in the morning we had to catch a train to go down to Sussex, and when we came to get ready to go, we couldn't find one of Lakshmi's shoes, and it was in November, so it was cold and so on. She was just a very tiny little thing, and it was a very modern flat, so it wasn't like there were lots of nooks and crannies. It was very clear and not cluttered and so on. And we just searched high and low. We could not find the shoe. It was a little red shoe. We couldn't find it anywhere. And time was going on and we had to leave to get the train. And suddenly, I was sitting in the middle. Like, imagine I was in the middle of that carpet there. And I thought, Bandon, put a bandon on. And I started to put the bandon on, and the shoe dropped into my lap. And someone was standing next to me, Janet's husband, and he saw it too, and he said, "Where did that come from?" And I said, it just fell through the air, it's just appeared. And I always, after that, it's had a very profound effect on me, because I really, really believed in bandons after that, and I've always used them, and I've always found them very effective. And, whereas if I hadn't had that experience, I don't know how, it was incredible.
That young girl that had her foot was crushed when we were in India too.
Yes.
Mother was being pulled along the bullock cart. One of the yoginis sort of got in the way, and the cart went over her foot and split it wide open. It was a really bad injury, And I said, make her comfortable, bring her here. I want Sahaja Yogis to take it into her to work on her all night. So this happened. And the next day, only people like here would believe it.
Yeah.
But when she got up, there wasn't a mark on her foot.
Yes.
It's the sort. When we were going to that place, Mother warned us that we shouldn't go. We were going to this Saptashinga, I think, something like that, some mountain we were going to. Mother warned us that anyone that had been to false gurus shouldn't go.
Right.
So off we all went, spent the whole day climbing this place, and when we came back, had our tea, sung some bhajans and went to bed. And the next morning, it's a miracle fellow, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
He was laying in his bunk, and one of his mates was talking to him, and he said, "Look at the state of him." And he was covered in blisters, covered from head to foot in blisters. Yeah. And someone went and told Shri Mataji, and she said, "I did warn people that didn't went to full school should not come. This really should be okay. But this was just a sort of a warning. And, you know, these were the sort of things. It was so powerful. It was unbelievable, really. You know? And you can only sort of mention these stories to Sahaja Yogis because no one else would believe it.
I had one which was 11 or 12, very young, and again, right at the very front, when Mother was in the car, either getting in or getting out. I think she was
Things, isn't it?
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Things that only happen in fairy stories kind of thing, but they're real. Yeah.
You need to start again.
I'll start again.
Yes, please, Mother.
So again, I was about 11 or 12. I'd made my way to the front when Mother was leaving. So Mother obviously used to sit. She used to stand by the door, and then she would sit down, and she would still be talking to a few people. And obviously everybody else was busying around, loading the car up with her things. And I was obviously again right at the very front, talking to Mother. And I had my hand on the central column. Someone had loaded the car and then just slammed the back door, which caught my hand in it. So straight away, the door was then opened, and I took my hand out, which was completely blistered and purple. And Mother just took it and held it, told me not to cry, told me to be strong. And in about 2 or 3 minutes, she let go of my hand, and
There's nothing there.
there was nothing there whatsoever, no pain, no nothing.
2-3 minutes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think even then, as a youngster, I just thought, oh, great. I think it had a more profound effect on everybody else, really, rather than me. But it's something I still remember.
But yeah, I remember I used to stay in Kabela cooking for Shri Mataji, and one day I just so fast coming the steps down, and I just fell over and just hurt my ankles, and I can't walk. And Mother called me, and she just put her feet in my ankles, and it's really automatic swollen go down and feeling really better. After the next day, John fell over and scaffolding there. Oh no! So Mother doing his ankle. So Mother just, used to look like kind of a doctor. She just doing her just feet on our ankles and just, observe all these things, and just a miracle things,
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many of them. You took them for granted in the end.
Yeah.
At Brompton Square, we were cleaning the bathrooms, and often you haven't got the proper thing. There wasn't that often. The proper thing wasn't there. And we used furniture polish, very dark brown furniture polish, to clean all the marble. There was about, I suppose it was about a third full. So we did several bathrooms. We got to the top, and Magda had the tin. She said, "Oh, Mother, isn't it amazing? You've done all these bathrooms." So we all said, Mother said, "Yes, isn't it amazing?" And as we talked, the polish went over the top, it flowed over the top, onto the beautiful new golden coloured carpet in Sir C.P.'s room. Made this terrible mark. And so it wasn't our fault because it had spilled over the top. So Mother said, we praised it so much, and that's what's happened. You go and get some water. So we put some water on this terrible stain, and Mother put a bandana and said, don't worry about it. So the next day I went there up to the room to sort it out, and I forgot about this stain. Then I remembered it, and there was not even a speck. There wasn't even a speck. Amazing. And you did take them for granted in the end, didn't you? There were so many things happened. You thought, oh.
You just thought it was.
You just thought it was
natural
normal.
thing to happen.
And then at the bottom of the staircase, did you ever see that? They said one day, David and I went, and they said, go and look at the piece of carving at the bottom of the stairs. So instead of a knob, there was this beautiful carving of a, did you ever see it? Of a Negro bending over.
No, I
It was
didn't.
beautiful. It was a completely smooth back. We went back a couple of days later, and Mother said to us, go and look at the bottom of the stairs. We went down to the bottom of the stairs, and the back wasn't smooth. You could count all the vertebrae and all the ribs.
Lots of the builders had towers, didn't they? I'm surprised they haven't told you. Where they run out of cement.
Yeah.
And then they'd go and have something to eat and come back, and there was enough cement to get jobs done. All sorts of strange things happened.
Where did you experience
This
it?
was at No, a place in London. Brompton Square. Quite a lot of people, that was involved. This was second hand as far as
I remember one that Fergie told where he couldn't get plaster to stick on the front of a house somewhat. Must have been maybe Brompton Square or one of the other houses. And Mother said there was some paint there, and he'd been trying to get it to stick all day. For some reason it wouldn't stick. She mixed this paint with the plaster and just He said she did a perfect sort of metre of plastering, and it stuck perfectly, and she just sort of got the paint and mixed it. So.
I'm sure you'll get these stories
Eventually.
from these people that were involved in it.
Yes, and what about the wallpaper in that beautiful...
Yes,
There was an old garage in the basement that Mother turned into an exquisite dining room.
Yeah.
And it had been an old garage. And they put this lovely paper on the wall. It was silver with birds of paradise on it. And they got it in Harrods. But anyway, they ran out. And so Mother said, oh, we'll go around and get some. And they didn't have any. So they didn't have it, they didn't buy any more. And then she said, they said, what are we going to do? She said, oh, go and look in that cupboard, you know, at the back of the thing a mile away. And they found 2 rolls of it.
And when there was some wallpapering that Lewis and someone else did, where they papered, and then after they'd done it, they had to do it very quickly. And I think Mother wanted it done so that it would be nice when CP came. And when they saw it had dried, and there was like a gap of about 1/4 inch between the... And she, you know, they were really worried, and they kind of said, Mother, you know, what should we do? And she said, don't worry, you can use the vibrations for this. And she said, come along, help me. And they kind of had to push the paper, and they were all thinking, oh my goodness, you know, it's completely solid. But yeah, it actually came together. It was perfect. Yeah. They're all pushing this paper there.
In those days, Mother used to go out to various places. Have you been to any places with her? Days out, picnics, shopping?
Yeah, picnic. You went picnic? Yeah. Because we used to stay in Italy, Mother's castle, and Shri Mataji and her granddaughters and me, we just went to Dalio with picnic, and such a really enjoy. And that day Mother showed me how to make the keema, because she knows her granddaughter children like the paratha and keema, and such a lovely time we had. Yeah, such.
Mother, in those days, because when I was with Mother, I was working in India, and Mother wouldn't take any money for the tour, you know, and because Mother used to think, oh, Indians, you know, never mind. I said to Mother, no, I'm working there, and you know, I can afford, so please take money. No, you're looking after me, the grandchildren and everything. There's no need for you to pay, you know. And I said, no, Mother, please take money. And I really requested her. So Mother said, okay, come on, I'll take the rupees, I'll take the money. And she took the money. And one day she said, let's go for shopping. So the grandchildren and myself and Mother, we all went for shopping. And Mother bought some shoes and all for the grandchildren, and she brought some slippers for me as well. Those slippers, I wore them for my wedding. And she said to me, see, I'm using your rupees that you gave me. So makes you so important as well, and it makes you real, you know, and I, not that I want to, but it's, you know, it's so sweet,
yeah.
you know, I mean, she, you know, that sort of thing.
Nothing's wasted, these little things that happen. Because when I was travelling with her, I saw that the pop socks that she wears dug right into her legs. It was horrible. So when we were in London, I searched the West End for some wide ones. And the only thing I could find were bright purple. That's all they had, so I bought some of these things and I gave them to Mother, and she said, what's this? She put them in the case, and we went to New York. We went to a puja, and she got dressed. She came out in this beautiful purple sari with a gold border, and she had little golden slippers and these purple stockings that exactly matched the sari. And she said, oh, she got them because she's an actress. But I got them. Anyway, we had this puja, and about 2 years later, they had a seminar, I think it was in Birmingham, and 2 ladies from New York came, and one of them said to me, do you know what did it for us? It was those purple stockings. Mother had that purple sari with the gold and the gold slippers and the purple, and that's what did it for us. And they became very good Sahaja Yogis. So it just shows you there's nothing wasted.
No, nothing. Nothing's a mistake.
Nothing's a mistake.
I remember one time someone gave Mother a teddy bear for a present, and I felt rather cynical about this. And I thought, oh my God, why are they giving Mother a teddy bear of all things? And then a couple of weeks later I was in her bedroom in Brompton Square, and there was this teddy bear taking pride and praise on her bed.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nothing's wasted.
Did you get presents and from Mother on different
Yes.
Yes, tell us about it.
Well, mine was a strange one because I never expected a present. I expected a reprimand, but well, there was a puja coming up, and I forget to read. I didn't feel worthy of going to this puja. You know, I had some sort of negative thoughts, and I thought that. Oh, I forget what it was now. I can't remember what it was, but I just didn't want to go. So friends, they said they all went, and they said, "Come." I said, "No, I don't want to go. I don't feel I feel a bit critical." So I didn't go. And I said, I've got a lot of badders, and I wasn't sure what badders were, but it sounded right. So I didn't go. Anyway, what amazed me was when they got to. Well, you tell the rest of the story, because I was indoors with the ump, you know.
We all sat in front of Shri Mataji, and she said, "Where is your husband?" And I looked round and thought, he's at home, Mother. So she said, "Tell him he has no badders. And give him this, some white cotton linen, to make it good."
I couldn't believe it.
He said, "You're telling me fibs." I said, "No, I wouldn't tell you fibs. I really wouldn't."
I've still got the white cloth now.
Yeah.
But that's the only present I've ever read.
Have you had it made into?
No, I've just kept it.
It's
I won't let no one
sacred.
touch it.
Yeah.
But that was the story, you know.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because it makes you realise that she knows
Everything.
That reminds me of I turned up at a public programme one night, and I had terrible leprosy, and I sat right at the back of the hall, far away from Mother as I possibly could, and I sort of sat there. And anyway, at the end of the programme, Mother said, "Right, all the yogis can come up and give me a flower." I thought, no, I'm not going anywhere near Mother, not in this stage. And so there was a long queue, and we were sitting there waiting for this queue to go down, and I saw a yogi who I needed to speak to about something in the queue. So I thought, well, I'll just go and tell him, nab him while he's in the queue. It's going to take a while. And I started having this conversation with him, and finished what I was saying. And the queue had dwindled, so we got close enough to Mother for the vibrations to have sort of welcomed me in. So I thought, well, I might as well stay here now. So the queue went down and down and down and down, and eventually it got to the chap right in front of me. And Mother said to this chap, said, "Oh, how are you then?" And he said, "I've got leprosy, Mum." And Mother said, "I beg your pardon?" She said, "Oh, I've got leprosy, Mum." And Mother turned to me and she said, "What did he say?" And I said, "He's got leprosy, Mum." So Mother worked on him, and then got up and went out. He didn't bother to see me.
Need you at the same time.
And the other time that I remember about presents was she bought us all ties. It was after a puja up at the Temple of All Faith, and she bought all the men ties, and she bought these ties out, and they all matched what we were already wearing. I remember some of her check shirt, and they brought out this check tie. It was incredible.
I had one to do with Lafashudi as well in India, where an amazing experience in Pune, where I've already told some people today. It was at a market in Pune, and Mother was there, and she had a few of her relatives there as well. And she was going around the market, and like Bernard was saying, I was feeling not very good about myself, and I was hoping that Mother wouldn't kind of turn her attention to me. I didn't want to go into her attention or her to ask me how I was or anything like that. So I was kind of holding back. I was watching Mother and following, but at a distance, and she was absolutely surrounded by people. So I kept walking around. This went on for I don't know how long, 3/4 of an hour or something. And then I got involved in buying some silk paintings at one of the stalls, and when I had finished buying them, I looked up and suddenly there was hardly anyone in the market. Everyone seemed to have gone because it had taken half an hour and my attention had been in that. And then, so I kind of relaxed because, Mother wasn't there and she wasn't going to put her attention on me. And I was walking along and suddenly there was hardly anyone there. Walking towards me was Shri Mataji, completely alone. And, she was coming towards me and I was going towards her, and so we looked at each other and I said, I bowed to her and she said, "How are you, Ruth?" And I said, "I'm fine, thank you, Mother." And she said, just enjoy. And then she walked past, and then when I got back to the camp I said, "I met Mother at the market," and she spoke to me, and they said, "No, that's impossible," because she was surrounded by people the whole time she was there, and when she left, she was surrounded by people, and so
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
just to make them, yeah.
She could be in more than one place at a time, and also how she cared. And
Exactly. Knew how I was feeling and how I was holding back.
Remind us where it was and when.
That was in Pune, and it was in 1988.
That's amazing. How was yes?
I have gift for Shri Mataji. In Italy, I used to, when I cooked to her, I just wearing a little bit border sari, and she said to me, "When you're cooking, make sure you wear the cotton saris." Because I said, "Okay, Shri Mataji," but that time I had not much cotton sari I bring from India. She went in the cupboard and she gave me special sari. She has standing in the sea and it's kind of pink border. That's the sari she's giving me. And you can see that sari she must wear a lot of time in a picnic, other thing. And she said, "This sari is really special for me." And she gave me some cardigan and some matching shawls. And lots of bangles she gave me. She wears the bangles. And I'm just taking all the gift. But she would say, "Can you namaskar me? Now, bow down me," because I completely forgot. Namaskar me, bow down me, because I completely forgot. This all the gift looking at me, and just so happy. I just completely forgot. What you do. And And next day one Sahaja Yogi gave me new purse. Same morning, she gave me a nice new purse to me as a gift. And evening, Shri Mataji said to me, "I got purse for you." And I just confused. I said, "Is Mother testing me or not?" Because I got morning one purse, another Mother offering me. I said, "Shri Mataji, no, I got one purse." And I don't take from Mother because in my just think I'm greedy. My Navi Mother testing me. And I said, "Shri Mataji, I got this purse, new purse this morning." Mother said, "Okay, you got." It's just sweet.
Very, very nice.
Another thing, when we used to live in Yale, that time building side, but hardly surgery comes, and sometimes Mother come and I just open the doors, Mother's, and when she goes, close the door. Now it's difficult. One day Shri Mataji going to some south or something public, and she going with Mr. C.P.'s. When she leaving, and I saw Shri Mataji has a little bit more powder and makeup here, and I said, "Shri Mataji, open down the window," and she do the down the window, and I said, "Shri Mataji, this makeup's here," and she said, "Where?" And I just show her, she still can't do it. End up, I just take my hand and just clean her. And all the soldiers say, "What I'm doing?" Touching Mother's cheek, And I just feeling, because if Mother going outside, I feel really make someone point to Mother's face. It's better to, when I see this thing. But that time, see, I'm telling her, Shakti, what do I do? But just done this, and then I feel really inside, really happy about, I can see Mother's face, And other soldiers say, "What are you doing?" Touching Mother's cheeks. It's just innocent way. I just done this thing.
Yes, very spontaneous. Very nice.
I had one which I just remember, I can't remember how old I was, probably, again, 12 or 13, in Mother's house. And either a bedroom or a front room, I can't put my finger on it, but I just walked in and there was a very ornate candelabra sitting on the side, and I just remember walking up and, as I didn't really care, I picked it up and started looking at it. And Mother said, "Do you like that?" And I said, "It's lovely." And she said, "It's yours, take it."
Oh.
You have to be careful what you say now,
Yes.
because she just gives
Yeah.
it to you.
Sure.
What was your first Haban like? Did you have a puja?
Health and safety.
Well, the first puja I went to, I was told it was going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning at Chelsham Road, and I called in the allotted time because I was quite punctual, and there was no sign of a puja going on, and apparently it was going on the other side of London in the Temple of Faith in Hampstead, and not until 6 o'clock that evening. So I hung around Chelsham Road all day, and we had a full puja followed by a Havan, and when we sat down for Havan, Shri Mataji said, right, all the new people sit right at the front. So we sat jam right at the front, and then we had a Havan with 1,001 names. And half an hour in, I thought, these people are start raving mad. Let me out. But I couldn't because I was wedged in at the front. But luckily, by the end of it, I was cleared out enough to feel the benefits of it.
What benefits did you feel, if you could express them?
Well, I just felt clear and very light and joyful. You know? Yeah.
The pujas were ironic because they were all held in this place, as Bernard said, the Temple of All Faiths.
Yes.
And it was awful. The rain used to come in. It was really...
One little toilet.
It was really
One
shabby.
toilet and you're
You
actually
queue up for it.
Yeah.
Or have to go
6 inches of water on the floor in the
It was
toilet.
so shabby. And all the international pujas
And they were very long, weren't they?
Yeah, very long.
And there were all of us who didn't know anything about puja and mother.
That's right.
I mean, it was incredible, and they were wonderful. I mean,
How many international pujas?
yeah.
you said?
Well, there weren't many. You see, only France and Switzerland did those
Yes.
days.
What was the sort of, how many people used to be there in the
Perhaps 100. Perhaps
About
150.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All squashed in.
But they used to hire a professional puja called
Pujari.
and sit there ranting away for hours, didn't he?
Yeah. And then you get to the end of 1,00001 names, and then it
they
was
start
another
again,
1,000.
you know.
No, I remember that.
Yeah.
To the end of it, and then
I've been in Sahaja
You
Yoga
couldn't believe
about
it.
4 weeks,
Yes. Really long.
and you know it was. Yet you still stay. That's the strange thing
Yes,
about it. You know,
stayed, yes.
even with children,
Yeah.
you know, it was a whole day and after evening as well.
Yeah.
And you just didn't know why you was. I mean, I'd go out for a cigarette halfway through it because I just didn't know what was going on. Yeah, no one objected, you know. And I came back and I thought, God, my God, what are they doing here? And you've got a bit of an headache, but you just knew something was happening. And the kids had come in and a little chat, and this chap was covered in rice, wasn't he?
He was like a pyramid of rice.
It was like almost like a pyramid. Vast amount of rice, and none of us knew what was going on. And then Mother would sort of wash Mother's feet, and it was awesome. It was so.
Mother
alien.
directed everything.
Yes, Mother
all the
directed
time.
everything.
But at the end of it all, when you come away, you just felt you'd gained something.
Oh,
you just
definitely.
felt different, and that, you can't
Clear.
put any difference to that. You just felt more. What do you call it? Clearer.
Lighter.
That's the
Clearer,
word. Yeah.
clearer.
Your head was clear. You felt much more, you know,
Agile.
supple. It was just.
She was so kind.
Do you
And we'd have an Ajran session at the end of it as well, and Mother would be under the blanket.
right.
She'd be under the blanket for the whole
That's right.
duration.
One of us.
Where it's like,
Do you remember this time after getting your realization to this puja? What was the gap like?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because they asked, was it okay for us to go because we were very new?
Yes.
And she said, oh yes, we can go. So she knew exactly what we were, and you couldn't fool anyone. There was no point in trying to pretend you knew what was going on because you didn't.
Mother
You
knew
know,
we didn't.
Yes.
and Mother knew we was. I mean, I used to smoke and drink at that time, but and it just you just dropped off, you know.
Yes.
So it was, yeah, it was great, really. You know, although you didn't know what was going on.
But it was fantastic. Even though you didn't understand, know what was going on, you just felt it was fantastic, miraculous, you know. And it just was a very oiled, silky feeling. You know, you almost floated out. Yeah, it was miraculous.
Yeah.
It's keep using this
Very
word
efficient,
miraculous, but it's you can't explain.
No, it's difficult to put in words.
And she was so near. She was as near as you were.
Yes. Yeah, that was the beauty of it.
And I remember the first one I went to, they asked me to make the garland, and they just had these huge chrysanthemums, these great big ones. So I threaded those up, and I've always loved flowers. It was such a wonderful thing to do. And when they put it on, Mother, I heard her saying, "Who made this? Whose idea was this?" And it was only because there wasn't anything. I was massive. Whose idea was this? There wasn't anything else.
Have you got photographs?
I have got some
Yeah,
photographs.
sure.
Would you like to share that
Yes, I
later?
will.
Yes.
And then that year when she gave everybody the ties, she gave us all a present, didn't she?
Yeah, she did.
And I remember I got some rose oil for the bath, and because I had this rather strange life, I spent a lot of my time when I wasn't working, walking around the park looking at the flowers. So when I got this rose oil, I was absolutely thrilled. And she said to me, "Oh, you look very happy. You look really happy." And it was this little rose oil. And everybody got the most amazing presents, but it was just for them, about the ties and everything.
Yeah. What you needed at the time.
Yeah, so generous,
I
so
have,
kind.
I have another one thing in Ealing. One Sahaja wearing a really nice necklace. It's really sparkling, but her skin is very white, and I just think, oh, this must be really diamond thing, because she's rich, must have got it. I just think about it in my head, and it's really, I'm feeling really happy. And 1 hour ago, Mother went to airport, and exactly same necklace she's giving to Sulva to give it to me. She said, "I got from Padmini." 1 hour, I got.
You have the same necklace?
Yeah, exactly same necklace, earring. After 1 hour, I get same thing, and then and that time she was going to India, and I just wear in the airport, and I'm just so happy. Just 1 hour, your desire, and you got exactly.
At Shubi Camp's mother gave me some seed pearl earrings, kind of like lots of them in big circles. And she didn't give them directly to me, she gave them to Nita, who was looking after her, to give to me. And they were on a metal post, but they weren't silver. And because my skin comes up when I have metal which isn't silver, I was looking at them thinking they were lovely, but what a shame, because I couldn't wear them. And then at that moment Nita walked in again with another pair of earrings, pearl earrings, and she said, "Mother said give these to Ruth, on gold this time, and tell her they're real."
No.
And then she told Nita, when Nita came back, what did Ruth say? She wanted to know what I said when I got the
So before marriage, because when she was saying on marriage, she gave some money, get some Mangalsutra. And then we just went to in India, got this Mangalsutra, and then this kind of Mangalsutra she hold it, and just such a tremendous vibrations.
Yeah.
This gift from Shri Mataji.
That's a present from Shri Mataji,
Yes,
the Mangalsutra. Wow. The Mangalsutra is
The marriage
the
thing.
gold beads with the gold and the black beads that a married woman wears. Yes.
As the both
Beautiful.
things. Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Sometimes one looked down at oneself and one was dressed by Mother.
Yeah.
The sari, the jewellery,
Yeah.
everything. She's been so unbelievably generous. And always something very beautiful.
There are more women who happen to be here than men, and I would be very tempted to ask if Mother said something about jewellery, some precious stones or some precious metals. Did you ever have any kind of conversation like that, if pearls were good for certain things, or jade or emerald?
Silver is very cooling.
Did she say that we should all wear gold? Or something gold?
Something gold.
She told me to wear gold.
Yeah.
Because of my hair. Because of my hair, she said you should wear something gold. But she's given me several amber necklaces. And I believe amber, I don't know if it's supposed to calm you down, is it? But I've got about 4. So there must be something. And I've got a hot liver, I think it soothes you down.
She's given me several pearls several times, including this long set here. And the day after she gave me these, because I was staying in her house for about 4 days, I think, a few days, and she said, "You have to become like a pearl on the necklace I gave you yesterday."
Yeah.
She's given me so many. things. I always felt it was because we had to be protected. I know when I put mine on, it's like putting on the armour. You know, you go out and you put your things on because it's a protection. So it's like when you see in the films Arjuna putting on his stuff. I thought, it's like that, you know, you're putting all the things on the shore and then you're protected.
Did you watch movies with others?
Yeah.
To be quite
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think one day Shri Mataji and her granddaughter and me, we are three of them, and Ealing. Shri Mataji doing oil massage to her granddaughter, her name is Anupama Nanu, and I just rubbing Shri Mataji's feet. And we just watching, and that movie is Hema Malini and some things. And we just watching movie, and Shri Mataji makes, suddenly she asks, what's happened, and we're just making laugh, and suddenly I'm rubbing mother's feet, but it's in so many thoughts in my head, you know, I don't know why, sometimes. And suddenly I'm feeling really nervous. Mother said, don't feel guilty. I don't know, it's just sometimes really joyful, but sometimes when you massage mother's feet and you just think, what's thought coming, you know?
Yes.
It's we doing, you know, I don't know why it's making our brain goes, you know, but sometimes happen. And another thing, should it come, I just think, I feel really joyful. I got mother's massage her feet, and I said, I really like to mother's massage her body. And I said, oh, then next time mother comes to Shurikam, and that time I went there. And I get 15 days as get chance, and I feel it look like inside my whole body look like freeze, massaging mother's thing, you know. She says, don't do massage my back and everything. I feel so much joyful, you know. I used to phone to John and say, how I feel, it can just look like, I don't know where I am, you know, such a wonderful thing.
Yes, with the films, you were watching, in America we were watching The Wizard of Oz once, and you know when they all faint in the poppy field, and she said this is prophetic, this film is prophetic.
What's it called?
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz, yeah.
And then I wasn't there, but Sarah, a few days later, and they were watching 2001, you know, the science fiction. And when Hal, the computer, really started to take over, Mother told them to turn it off. She said, once they take over, you'll be finished. So that was pretty horrible. And yet another time, in watching films in Hampstead, we called round and Mother had the television on, and we were very embarrassed. There was Mother sitting there, and there was that beautiful, very young picture of her on the wall, and then there was Marilyn and Robert Mitchum in the one last river, or Last River or something. She plays a nightclub girl, and there she was, you know, not very many clothes on, and it was really embarrassing. And then he picks her up at the end, and he takes her off, and her red spangly shoe falls off. So she's going off to be a wife. And Mother turned around and said, that was a very good film. And then she turned it over and it was James Bond and Pussy Galore. It was terrible. And then she said, he's only with one. It's right, he's only with one.
I watched Gaslight with Mother once. I was in Mother's house, and Helen Marson was there as well. And we just had lunch with Mother. And Mother was walking around the room. She said, "I'm bored," she said. "What shall we do?" And she got the remote and pointed it at the television, and immediately came up Gaslight. And she said, "Oh, this is a very good film. Yeah, I like this." And so we watched this. So I sat next to Mother on the settee, and Helen was on an armchair just next to that. And all the way through, Mother was talking about, I mean, the heroine was wearing these off-the-shoulder dresses, gowns, how dignified she looked, and how well they spoke, because, you know, in these old films, how you hear every word they said. And it's about this man who, he drives his wife mad by keeping on telling her that she's, well, planting things on her and saying she's stolen them. And so she kept commenting on this man, how evil he was, how he's completely evil. In the end, the heroine kind of, everything comes right, and she kind of turns on the husband, and he's all tied in a chair, and she's kind of telling him, you know, giving him what for. And Mother said, that's it, you tell him.
That's what I really enjoy. Yeah.
What was Mother's advice? Some of you got married in Sahaja Yoga, and Mother must have spoken informally about marriage, life.
I can tell you a small little thing. It's in this country, actually. Mother was living at the airport, and we had been to see Mother, you know, and I don't know, maybe myself alone or with the children, but Malcolm was at work. So I just told Mother that by your grace, Mother, that Malcolm is doing well. He's got, you know, all the, you know, company car, but his company is sending him to some other place called Luton, you know, and I really didn't want to go so far, and but Mother said, no, you should always, wherever the husband goes, you should go with him. So I said, oh my God, you know, and he was looking for a house over there, but then we had to like sell this house or rent another house, and too many things happened. So then afterwards, I think he stayed there, but that's why you have to go where the husband goes, you know. So that was very good.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, she told me that as well. But she's on a tape where she talks about how to have a happy marriage, and it does work.
Which year is
This was in Australia, and I think it was 1979. It's a very good tape. It's a Nabi tape, and she says on it that she does it so charmingly, doesn't she? She says that the husband comes home from work, he says to the wife, "Oh, I fancy a pancake."
Oh, yeah.
And the wife says, "Oh, I'm too tired, I can't. So then, or he comes home from work and she's been indoors all day and she says, "Oh, I'm fed up, I'd like to go out. Let's go out." He says, "Oh, I can't, I'm too tired." So Mother said, she should be dying to do what he wants, and he should be dying to do what she wants. And we have tried that in our marriage, and it absolutely works. It's wonderful advice, and it's so simple.
Give us an example.
Well, I wasn't all that young when I got married, and I was quite set in my ways, and so was my husband. And I had lived alone, and I was used to going out in the evening, walking around the streets. It's a very funny thing to do, but that's what I used to do in the evening, to go around walking around, because I live in quite a nice area. There were some beautiful door cases and some nice buildings, so that's what I used to do. So anyway, David would come home from work, and I'd say, "Oh, I'd like to go out for a walk." He said, "Okay." And he walked around the streets with me, looking at the door cases and the buildings. And he did that for 3 weeks, and then I didn't want to do it anymore. But I've never forgotten it. I've always remembered him doing that. And he's such a darling, sweet person. And we've always tried to do that, to do what the other one wants. And that's the way to be happy. So when everybody gets divorced all the time, you think, well, you know, try that. Mother's advice. Simple.
It's just love, really, isn't it? It's I mean, to care about what the other one wants.
Yeah, and then you can be as set in your ways as you like, and you can still come out of it.
I also feel sometimes it's like all mother's talks and everything. I think they are so, like mother has said, every talk will transform you and all that. And I can see it in practice, because in mother's talks, I mean this Sahaja Yogi children. Of course, my daughter is now 25, 24 sort of thing. So, you know, sorry, 26 and 24. So I'm surprised. The other day, just a couple of days back, I wanted to come for this thing, and I had something happening yesterday and all that, and there was little this between us that, oh, what is going to happen and that sort of thing. So Sakshi and Smita, they just said to me, oh, do you know what, Mummy? Maybe we are being born to correct you, and that's why we have been born. And I'm surprised when they talk. I mean, you know, sometimes it's funny, they really come to the earth in order to, they've got such knowledge, you know, that they can really correct you in such a subtle way and make you realize that, oh, what you're doing is wrong or something like that. And she told me, Mummy, all men are the same, you know, Mummy. And she says to me, yeah, you have to really, Mummy, you know, they are like babies. And I said, my God, you know, and you have to really,
26-year-old
yes, I mean, daughter, I mean, even when she was small, because when she was born, I think, when I was expecting her, mother had told me that big soul is coming, taking birth on the earth. She told, I don't know whether she told me or to my brother, but I know that much. And even when she was 9 years old, she had told her cousin, whom she had not seen for a long time, far cousin, when we had been, because she was in Dharamshala, and she had told, do you know what, I've seen God, you know, I've seen God, and you know, that's why we are studying there, because that's God's place. And the cousin was saying, where's this God's place and all that? So she said, Mummy, come here, you know, give realization to this boy, because he was, and both the boys, they were sitting like that in their meditation, and she was only 9 years old, and the boys, they said, oh, now we want to go where the Sakshi and Smita are going, to Dharamshala. That means, you know what, these realized souls, they are really, they're different, and you know, so I mean, it's amazing.
Did you get advice from Shri Mataji about children, how to bring them up?
It was very simple advice. She just said, you discipline them and I love them. I'll give them the love, you give them the discipline.
When my daughter was young, she told me how to put oil and they say talu, so that talu has to be filled, because you know, first child, you don't know how to bring them up, and she said you have to put the oil this way and then rub it towards into the middle and fill the this up, and all. She showed me how to do that sort of thing, you know, for the baby, you know.
Well, I was just thinking of the same thing when we went to a meeting. Gowrie had just been born, and mother stopped when she went out and said, you know, put some attention on Gowrie and said, how is she? And she had a little bit of a cold, she was a bit blocked up, and I told mother that, and she said, what you need to do is oil her head, and suddenly a hand with oil came out of the crowd somewhere. And so Shri Mataji oiled Gowrie's head there, and exactly what you were saying, going into the centre. And I just remember seeing mother's face being very big, and just being very aware of mother there. Yes.
What about the gentlemen? Did you have any sort of advice on day-to-day activities?
No, none at all.
They're the children, you see. Mother always says
Yes.
the right children, doesn't she?
One day when she came to Bushy Park, that was the ashram in Bristol, it's just a little amusing thing. I was taking Lakshmi past mother's bedroom door, and I hadn't put tights on her. and I knew that Mother would say, you know, she should have tights on. And I tried to sneak past the door, and then I was just going past, and Mother said, Ruth? And she said, she should have tights on. And she would ask what you were giving her to them. It was just lashing I had then, and so what I was giving her to eat, you know, if I was giving her something, what have you put in there? She had a little cardigan on, and she said, where did this come from? And I'd actually bought it in a charity shop, and then I knew. And then she said, you should knit for her yourself. You should knit. You should knit for her. Yeah. Which I had actually done a few things, but then and I knew she was telling me that it wasn't. The vibrations weren't very good.
She doesn't like children, babies in all in one, does she?
No, because the vibrations can't flow, so that, you know, when they wear the feet, all joined together. Yeah.
Also, I remember, I think when the babies are small, I think I should give khichdi, you know, and that's very good for the babies. I think she mentioned rice and moong dal. You know, that's that's very good and has to give.
That's so amazing. Is there? I mean, I'm sure there's loads more. Is there anything else that's just as there inside you and you want to share with us, which we haven't covered? So, I mean, there's loads, I know. It's just those immemorable, invaluable times.
One funny story, I suppose. When we were at Brompton Square, I was up on the roof of the house overlooking the garden next door. It was springtime, and there was this magnolia tree in the garden next door, and I was admiring it. I wondered how long it had been in there, because it was quite developed, and I wondered how much the person who planted this tree had actually paid for it when he first got hold of it. And there was a public meeting that night, and Mother said, during the course of the lecture, she said, when you see a beautiful tree, just enjoy it. Don't stand there asking how long has it been, how much did it cost.
Being with Mother is difficult because all your things come out in CinemaScope, whatever is not very good. And I remember I can't remember what it was, something, and sitting at her feet, and I said, oh, it's wonderful being with you, Mother, but it's awful as well. She said, yes, that's what it's like with Mother. That's what it's like with Mother.
She sometimes has a way of reflecting back to you little sort of nervous habits or habits that you have, and so that you see them yourself. And I had a habit of saying, you know what I mean, after what I'd said to people. And I said, it's Mother. I said something, and I said, you know what I mean? And she said, no. No, I don't know what
I was addicted to sunbathing, and I had a horrible lesson over that, and I've never sunbathed since. We were in Switzerland, and I went out for a walk in the afternoon, a hot sunny afternoon, I thought, I'll go down to the lake and I'll sit under a tree. But you had to walk in the sun down to the lake, you see. But oh no, when I get down there, I'll be in the shade, la la la. Everything's okay. I came back, had a little rest, looked in the mirror, yes, nice sort of pinkish brown thing. I thought, oh, it looks nice, sparkling eyes, you know. So I went into Mother's room, and she said, oh, Baba, what have you done? What have you done to yourself? Shouting out. Terrible. Then she shouted and shouted, and she got her son in on. Look at her face, look what she's done. Anyway, she said, now tomorrow you're not to go out. So the next day came, I didn't go out, I sat inside, and in the evening they all went, that night, in those days they weren't always very kind to the people who accompanied Mother, and I had to sleep under the kitchen table. I was bitten by mosquitoes all night. The next day, the next day, the whole of my side of my face was all these lumps. So I didn't go out. She came down to them, we were all going out for the programme. And she said, aren't you coming? I said, no, you told me not to go out, Mother. She said, yes, it's all right, you come. So I was sitting in the front of the car and she was behind, so she must have seen the side of my face. What's wrong with your face, she said. I said, well, I got bitten by the mosquitoes and I never sunbathed after that. That was a horrible lesson. You get shamed in front of everybody.
So, have there been any sort of corrections or reprimands from Mother from time to time, like Patty said, any experience like that you would like to share?
I have before patches here, but I never noticed, but I got some patches here, black thing. And Mother told me, get some fade out. Fade out.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to use this and it's all gone. And I noticed that when Mother said in this black thing, I don't know what they call, but it's before fade out. Sure.
She gave me some stuff for my face because I had so many freckles. And yes, it cleared off, and then she said, oh, it looks much better now. But there was a fashion, you see, to be, wasn't there, to be tan. Because now one looks at it, it looks horrible. But in those days, you thought, oh, you know.
I think it's still fashionable, isn't it? And
Some
these suntan
Yes.
places still keep going, don't
Yes,
they?
in some, but not so much as it was.
Maybe,
There's been a lot of publicity
About the
looking
facts
down.
of, yeah.
Crummy, sit in the moonlight, didn't you?
She did.
I couldn't sit in the sun. I got burnt when I was in the army, and it affected my skin, you know. I'm allergic to the sun. And I said to Madam, can you cure this, man? I like to be able to sit in the sun. She said, no, sit in the moonlight. You're right-sided. And that was it. The complete opposite. Yeah.
So we're so lucky to be told, aren't we?
Yeah, really.
We're so lucky to be...
Yes?
So on one of my trips to India, we were at some weddings where they have the haldi.
Haldi, yeah.
And I remember we were obviously told to go and wash it in the sea and then go back into the shade. And I think I must have been about 14 or 15 and thought, I'll get a bit of colour before I go back to India. So I stayed out in the sun for quite a while. Anyway, the haldi and the sun and the stuff that we had to wash off all had a bit of an effect on me, and I got covered in blisters all across my top of my body. So I was being sort of cared for by my mum and some of the ladies. Anyway, I got summoned to go and see Mother, and obviously I was really, really nervous, but I presumed she knew that there was about 4 of us, I think. Presumed she knew it was me, or I was one of them. And as I walked in, she just looked at me and she said, I might have known it'd be you. With a bit of a stern look. And I sort of said, I'm sorry. And I think she ended up she gave us all one of her saris each. So we had calamine lotion, and then we got wrapped in saris to heal them.
Oh.
Yeah, but very nerve-wracking. It's almost like waiting outside the headmaster's office to go and get your punishment.
I have one experience that I'm building Sahaja, who is still in Egypt. And before, I don't know about when you're pregnant, we should not go. I just think if you go to some program, you should get more vibration and everything. That's where we go. And we went to Camden Town meeting. Camden Town with this Camden place quite. Yeah, but that place I went there and I can't get up, and I got 7 months pregnant. And can't get up. Then when I come home, I said to John, I'm not going to the hospital because the hospital because 7 months pregnant and they take out the baby, and then John phoned to Shri Mataji. She just said, okay, come to Kabel, and before we don't know because I'm 7 months pregnant and aeroplane can allow to us to travel or not. But I just say we can just pray to Mother call us. And when we were there, when we went to Kabela, sit in front of Mother, all gone. And as a kind of thing in India, when you're 7 months pregnant, you can go mother's home and for delivery. It's kind of example. Mother just called there as a 7 month, and I had baby there, and she's quite lucky. After 11 days, Mother hold her, and we in the morning we take her in Mother's bedroom, and I really like to take some photograph in Mother hold. And I said to Mataji, I like to take some photograph, and she said, okay, take off, how many you want, and take the photograph. So some other soldier could take, his mother hold her and take the photographs. Yes, and mother said to, before we give her name so many, but mother said, her eye is really beautiful. So she gave me now, see her name, we don't see her eyes, but now you can see her eyes beautiful. And mother said, it's very old soul coming. So it's really nice thing.
Sometimes I just want to give a small thing. Sometimes when you have a desire in your heart and you want to tell mother, but no, it's not good to talk to mother something which is immaterial or something which is, but that desire is still there in your heart. Because my daughter, when she was born, she had lovely pictures taken by Malcolm, all smiling and a face basically glittering, and you want to show mother those pictures, and I said, no, Meenakshi, don't do stupid things and don't show mother all pictures with your, it's your ego pampering, Meenakshi, be quiet. And I said, okay, I shouldn't show this. So anyway, mother went to India and she came back and she said, oh, your daughter's pictures, I've seen them. She says to me, your father showed me your daughter's pictures. I've seen them. And plus at the airport, she tells me even that I didn't ask her or anything. I was just standing to greet mother. And she told me, she gave me the message that she had seen those pictures. And so you can imagine, just the desire. Yes,
I had one last one.
She gave to me.
Sorry, just coming because when we have Adi Shakti Puja and Sasra Puja in England, my son is Omkar. He's Sasra Puja, his slave, and I said, Adi Shakti Puja, make sure you can go and offer Shri Mataji's feet. I said, okay, mommy, I can go do it. And he said to me, when after puja, I can go and sleep. I said, okay. And I sit very back, I can't see him. And I said, Omkar, you went to stage? He said, yes, mommy, I just been stage and offer Shri Mataji flower. And after 3 days, I see in internet his photograph offering flowers. Oh. Actually given me as internet, actually, because I said, because I can't see him going to stage, but because there is lots of crowd. But after 3 days, I saw him. I still got photograph. He actually offered mother flower, and there's photograph take.
Yeah.
Mother sometimes showing you, in your head what's going on. She knows.
It's absolutely wonderful, quite thoughtless and questionless at this end. So, were you involved in public programs? Yes. What was it like, the first public programs? Would you start reading this?
I don't know, you sort of slung in the deep end, weren't we, when we went to the island? Yeah. But the most amazing thing was how receptive people were. Yes. You was worried about, did I know enough about, the Kundalini and the chakras. But they sat in front of you, and you'd done as Mother has showed you. Yes. Then to your surprise, you felt this cool breeze. Yeah. It was as much surprise to you as it was to the person sitting there, really. And you realised that you weren't doing this. Mother was doing it through you, And this is how it's always been, it's got easier over the years. Today, when you have these public programs, people sit down, and the moment they sit down, they've almost got the cool breeze. Yeah. It's amazing how quick it's working out now, And I've always been, myself personally, just as amazed as it works as it does, But it's the most fulfilling thing in my life. There's nothing more joyous than giving people the realisation. Because you feel as much as they do, Fantastic. Even now, it's just like a new, every day, or every time you do it, it's like the first time, That's
amazing. So when was the first public programme you held?
1982 on the island.
Yeah, I think it was 1982.
On the Isle of Wight.
Yeah. We are at the Red Cross Hall, and the Sahaja Yogis come over from London, about 40 of them, wasn't it? And we'd put posters all over the island, we advertised in the paper, and it was not bad. about 70 or 80 people turned up, you know, and we very quick talk, put Mother's video up, and then they all got the realisation. The only problem was very few, even today, stick on. They get their realisation and that's it, you know.
Yes, in 1980, I was new, been in Sahaja a couple of months. She asked Magda, who lived in Hampstead, to have a meeting in Hampstead every week. So as we were best friends, we did it together. In November, we had the first weekly meeting in the West, I believe it was, and we started off with 9 people. And after 3 weeks, we had so many, we had to move down into the big hall. And of course, we were very new, so the older ones came and helped us a lot, Douglas and Gavin. And we were so grateful when Pat Anslow came because he gave the talk, and we were terrified of standing up talking, although we were actors, we were terrified. And in the end, Mother was very scathing about actors who can act but can't stand up and talk. So we said, right, we've got to do this. And my husband was a director, so he was my biggest critic. I had to stand up, and then I get home saying, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, now you must do this, do that. He wrote down some paragraphs, now do it like that. Every week I'd go home, I'd get this scathing criticism, and in the end, I did learn how to do it, and it becomes very nice, because you know everything, because you've jolly well had to learn it, but you feel from your heart what people want to know. And then Mother, at that time, used to come often to Hampstead. You get a phone call and say, Mother's coming, Mother's coming. And I remember again, I was quite new, and I was working on somebody, and Mother was showing me, and she was standing next to me, and Mother's got these big arms, and there we were, she was showing, we were lifting up the Kundalini, and I thought, oh, this is like being in the fever hospital. We've got our hands in the pus and we're getting rid of it. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And this year when we were at the Ideal Home, I remembered that. I thought, yes, here we are, Mother's standing here, nothing to worry about. Here you are, she's doing it, big, strong, she's not putting up with any rubbish. So it was such a wonderful time. People used to walk across London to come, those who couldn't afford the fare. They were wonderful, wonderful days at Hampstead. And of course they still have a lovely meeting.
When did you start?
1980, in November. And Mother often came to that.
So it was very soon after your realisation?
Yes, it was very soon. We were plunged into the deep end. And of course at Hampstead, and it still happens I believe in Hampstead, you get a lot of left-sided people. We used to get a lot of tramps in those days because the Quakers like to give them
more very extreme people in those days, didn't you?
Yeah, very extreme.
Very strange
yes,
people.
Very strange people. And I don't know, it's my lot in life, but often the others used to run away and I'd be left with these awful have to deal with them. Yes. But anyway, it still is lovely. And I do sometimes go to Hampstead and it's still it's a lovely place, lovely. But they were such amazing times, they will never come back to us again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mother went to various places. She lived in various houses in London as such, didn't she? And what was it like? Which was the first house that you...
It was Ashley Gardens, wasn't it? I never went to Ashley Gardens, but that was the first one. That was near Caxton Hall.
Churchill Road was the first one we went to.
And there's Nightingale Lane.
Nightingale Lane. And there was... She lived in Hampstead, in Hester and David's flat. She lived in Brompton Square. She lived in Stafford Mansions, which is near Buckingham Palace. And she lived in Rosary Gardens.
That's the one I couldn't remember. That's where I went to make curtains. Well, Mother wanted me to help to make curtains.
And
that was Rosary Gardens.
She lived in Patricia Perenza's flat as well, which is on the edge of Camden Town. She lived there for a while, and she lived
Darwin
in
Court.
Darwin Court, yes. And she lived in Hounslow.
And what about this as well, in Dollis Hill?
Dollis Hill.
Did she live in Dollis Hill?
Yeah, she went, I don't know whether she lived there, but...
She lived in Hounslow for a while, and of course Ealing. She's lived all over the place.
Yes, so many.
Did she say about London as a place and England as a country. And she must have mentioned things in informal discussions. Do you recall some?
She's got it all on the tapes.
She said that Shiva walked by the Thames, which meant the Thames.
Yes.
Shiva's land.
This is Shiva's land.
Yeah.
A lot about William Blake in London.
That's
and
right,
different
yeah.
areas. Being one of the parks is like the original Garden of Eden.
Yes. And Adi Guru Dattatreya meditated
Yeah.
by the Thames.
Yeah.
In London.
Yeah.
So Matthew, you were very young when you saw Shri Mataji and had this experience in your God in your home visiting and everything. That was absolutely lovely. How was it? I mean, you were at an age where you were, going out with your friends and playing with them. How did they relate to that? Did you speak to them about it? What was it like?
Actually, I don't think I did. It's funny, no, because obviously saying something to people at school or the teachers at school, but I don't recall much. I think that my relationships with my friends stayed the same, so I don't really think I sort of communicated it to them. It was.
Children don't think about it.
No.
They're so spontaneous,
Yeah.
but they just.
Had they asked me a question, I probably would have.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that I wanted to put on them. I was probably more interested in the game that we were playing. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. This is absolutely wonderful. I think we've had a very, very nice afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing all your memories. And if you would like to share some photographs or some clips that we could use for this DVD, do please let us know. It would help. And if you think there is something more that comes to mind, because once we talk, you kind of, by the time you go to bed, you have something more coming out. So do let us know, please, because it would be nice to get it all.
What do you want us to email you?
You could email us, phone us, if it's a memory that you can write, do email us. But if it's something that you think is very profound and you would like, we could also do a one-to-one interview if you like, So when it comes to attention, because it's all kind of started thankfully, and it's just. I suppose it'll be a snowball effect, wouldn't it? So if something comes to your attention, do please let us know. And I think we'll need also your help in recognizing the Sahaja Yogis from that age. And I'm saying age, do apologize. But it was so beautiful, watching so many of you from the 70s and the 80s go and do Namaskara, the Sahasrara Puja. We don't know so many of them, so we need to know. There are many who are not here today because, of course, the operational regions, the logistics, but also because many of them we don't know. So to help us sort of...
I have them on my photograph and going out with that.